Chapter 1033. Lin Tianfeng sighed. Sigh, of course we have to go. It's just that Heavenly Cave Cliff only has one level 1 teleportation formation, and it broke down at this critical juncture. That's why we're delayed. If we want to fix it, we'll need 2 more days. You may leave first. I'll personally write a letter to explain the reason behind this. Yes. Hearing this, the guard hurriedly left. Lin Tianfeng stood in the courtyard for a while before turning to return to the house. His brows were tightly knitted. He was clearly worried about this series of events. On the one hand, the Holy Sun's birthday banquet was getting closer and closer. If they delayed any longer, it would not be good. Heavenly Cave Cliff status was not high to begin with. If they made another mistake at this critical juncture, it would be one disaster after another. On the other hand, he had just learned about Lin Qifei's physical condition, which made him even more upset. He walked in front of the two and looked at Chu Luiyue with a worried expression. Miss Dugu, look, can't you make an exception? As long as you can cure Ji Fei, the Lin family will definitely treat you as an honored guest in the future. Lin Qifei lowered his eyes, his expression indifferent. Whether he lives or dies, it's fate. Father, don't force Miss Dugu. It's not that there's no way. Chu Luiyue suddenly spoke. Lin Tianfeng's eyes lit up. Miss Dugu, please speak. Chu Luiyue smiled and asked in a seemingly casual manner. I just heard that Master Lin seems to be going to the Holy Sun's birthday banquet. Lin Tianfeng paused but did not hide it. That's right. Many people knew about this matter now, so there was nothing that could not be said. Chu Luiyue's expression did not change, but the hands in her sleeves slowly clenched. She asked word by word. May I know the Holy Sun's name? Is it Rongxiu? Miss Dugu, be careful with your words. Lin Tianfeng's eyes suddenly widened, and he subconsciously shouted. How can we call the Holy Sun's name casually? Chu Luiyue's heart sank. As expected, this Holy Sun is indeed Rongxiu. Then, it seems that the birthday banquet and consort selection are all true. Chu Luiyue was silent for a moment. Then she suddenly laughed. So, when he said that he had something to do back then, he was talking about these? Patriarch Lin, please don't mind me. I was just asking casually. I didn't mean to offend you. Chu Luiyue leaned against the chair and lightly tapped the armrest with a smile on her lips. However, Dugu Bao, who was sitting beside her, could clearly feel the cold aura that she was exuding. He raised his eyebrows slightly, and a faint light flashed through his demonic purple eyes. He was to, of course, Lin as master, used to. So, if Master Lin and 4th Young Master don't mind, why don't we go together? That way, we won't delay our business, and, on the other hand, I can keep an eye on 4th Young Master's health and help him recover as soon as possible. What do you think? Lin Tianfeng thought for a moment, and he was a little tempted. That was indeed a good idea. He looked at Chu Luiyue in surprise. Miss Dugu is going there too? That wasn't a place that just anyone could go. Moreover, Dugu is an outsider. It would be even more difficult for her to go. May I know the purpose of Miss Dugu's trip? Lin Tianfeng didn't want to get into trouble. An idea popped up in Chu Luiyue's mind as she suddenly glanced at Dugu Bao beside her. Dugu Bao thought to himself, oh no. Chu Luiyue's eyes reddened, and she said in a low voice, I'm not afraid of being laughed at, but this time I brought Debeo here alone because... Before she could finish, she covered her face with her sleeves and sobbed. Dugu Bao's eyelids twitched violently. He clenched his little fists tightly. If not for the last bit of rationality in him, he would have exploded on the spot. Lin Tianfeng and Lin Qifei looked at each other and saw that Dugu Bao's usually expressionless face had a ripple of emotion. Excited? Angry? We were in love, but he said he had something to do and had to leave for a while. But after waiting for a long time, he didn't come back, so I thought to bring Debeo along to look for him. The father and son looked at each other and understood. So she was here to look for the child's father. I don't know anything about his background. I only heard him say something like saint, but I don't know anything about his identity. So, if Master Lin and 4th Young Master can help me this time, Dugu will be very grateful. Chu Luiwe spoke tirelessly. Although it was only a few short sentences, each and every word was filled with sadness and grievance. Anyone who heard it could empathize and be moved. Lin Chi-Fei's eyes rippled. Miss Dugu, what's the surname of the person you're looking for? Perhaps I should call you madam? Chu Luiwe smiled bitterly. The two of you can call me as before. Who knows if his name is real or fake? Lin Tianfeng stroked his beard. They did occasionally send people to carry out missions outside the Divine Ruins world. Perhaps some soldier had let Dugu Yu down. He didn't want to get involved in such a dispute, but Ji Fei couldn't do without her. After hesitating for a while, Lin Tianfeng said, Miss Dugu, your idea isn't impossible. But there's one thing. I hope that after you reach the place, you can wait for us to finish our business before you consider looking for him. As compensation, we can also send people to help you look for him. How about it? As long as they could attend the birthday banquet smoothly, then look for him in private without making a big deal out of it, it would be fine. Chu Luiwe smiled slowly. Then to Bayo, and I will thank Patriarch Lin and fourth young master here. Don't worry whether we can find him or not. Debeo, and I won't cause you any trouble. As she spoke, she gave Dugu Mabao a look. Debeo, why aren't you thanking her? Dugu Mabao took a deep breath and closed his eyes in despair. Debeo? Debeo? Chu Luiwe shook his hand. Dugu Mabao forced his eyes open, and every word seemed to be squeezed out from between his teeth. Thank you. Although there was something wrong with his complexion, it was fortunate that he was a meaty ball to begin with. Coupled with his cute voice, no one could tell that there was anything wrong with him. Instead, it only made the Lin father and son feel that he was holding a grudge against this irresponsible father. Thinking of this, Lin Chi-Fei sighed softly. It's always hard to be a mother. Chu Luiwe smiled awkwardly. Considering Dugu Mabao, whose aura was already frighteningly low, she didn't reply in the end. Then it settled. For the sake of convenience, when we go there, you will be Ji Fei's personal attendant. Lin Tianfeng said. Otherwise, rashly adding people is not allowed. Chu Luiwe nodded gratefully. Thank you, Patriarch Lin. Thank you, fourth young master. Chapter 1034. After the two sides reached an agreement, Chu Luiwe breathed a sigh of relief. Originally, she wanted to find a backer to deal with Lu Yi, but she didn't expect to get the opportunity to go with them through the Level 1 teleportation formation. In this case, the whole thing was meaningless, and she didn't have to take Lu Yi's threats and intimidation to heart. Thus, Chu Luiwe began to focus on helping Lin Chi-Fei recuperate. The illness in the fourth young master's body has been delayed for a long time. If you want to completely solve it, you must be ruthless. Unfortunately, his body is very weak now, and he needs to recover for a while before officially starting. Chu Luiwe said, took a pen from his side, and wrote down a prescription. I'll have to trouble the Lin family head to collect the herbs according to this prescription for refining medicine. Lin Tianfeng hurriedly took it. He first glanced at it and recognized that there were indeed many herbs on it that nourished blood and qi, so he nodded. Okay. These things are available in the residence. I'll send someone to get them. Chu Luiwe raised her eyebrows slightly. Most of the herbs on the prescription were common herbs, but there were also some very precious and rare heaven and earth treasures. Lin Tianfeng said that they had them in the residence, which showed that they had a deep foundation. In the end, it was a clan of the Divine Ruins world. Patriarch Lin, what I mean is, please go in person, don't let others do it. Chu Luiwe smiled. Seeing that you are familiar with these herbs, it shouldn't be difficult, right? The reason why Lin Tianfeng recognized these things was because he had worried too much about Lin Chi-Fei over the years. He had almost become half a celestial physician. Hearing Chu Luiwe's words, he was a little confused and pointed to himself. It's not difficult, but why do I have to do it personally? Suddenly, his expression changed. You mean someone will do something to these herbs? I'm a celestial physician, and the news of me coming to treat the fourth young master has probably spread by now. Although fourth young master was born with this illness, it shouldn't have been this serious. It's obvious that someone did something to it. Chu Luiwe wanted to say something, but hesitated. He fixed his gaze on Lin Tianfeng and saw him frown. I don't know anything else. I only know that you treat fourth young master with sincerity. Therefore, it is only safe to take the medicine from you. After Chu Luiwei finished speaking, the room fell into a dead silence. Lin Qifei raised his eyes slightly and gave Chu Luiwei a meaningful look. She was rather smart. She had just arrived at the Lin mansion not long ago and had already deduced so many things after taking his pulse once. I understand, Lin Tianfeng said, then turned and left. Of course, he wasn't worried about what Chu Luiwei would do. That was because, other than him, there were many other experts guarding the courtyard. Furthermore, after their conversation, he had developed an indescribable trust towards that woman. This time, he could only take a gamble. After Lin Tianfeng left, Chu Luiwei looked at Lin Qifei again. If fourth young master doesn't mind, may I try to treat you first? Lin Qifei didn't say anything, but extended his thin and pale wrist. He hesitated for a moment and didn't put on the handkerchief beside him. Chu Luiwei took his pulse and quickly glanced at him. The father and son were very cautious when taking pulses. Clearly, they had suffered in this area before. It wasn't hard to imagine how he had spent the past few years with his body in this state. However, these thoughts only flashed through her mind. Chu Luiwei quickly held her breath and focused, then separated a stream of force and injected it into his body. This time, she split out a bit more origin power than before. As it flowed through Lin Qifei's Yuan meridian, Chu Luiwei deliberately controlled her own force and hit the thing that was attached to it. This, Lin Qifei cried out in pain, his face instantly pale. Chu Luiwei frowned slightly. Is it very painful? Lin Qifei pursed his lips and shook his head. It's fine, you can continue. Chu Luiwei nodded. Bear with it. Then, she tried a second time. This time, Lin Qifei's expression was still enduring, but he didn't make any sound. As for that strange thing, under the impact of this force, it suddenly ran to the side. Chu Luiwei's mind moved, and the force instantly transformed into a scarlet flame. It quickly chased after it. A scorching pain instantly spread through his body. Lin Qifei's face instantly flushed red. The veins on his forehead bulged. At this moment, the flame had already filled up the Yuan meridian at an incomparably rapid pace. The raging fire burned. In a daze, Chu Luiwei even heard an ear-piercing scream. Soon, the ball-like thing on the Yuan meridian fell off one by one and was burned to ashes by the flame. Ugh! Lin Qifei finally couldn't help but groan. Chu Luiwei glanced at him from the corner of her eye and saw that his forehead was covered in sweat and his lips were deathly pale. Only then did she retract the flame. The moment she released her hand, Lin Qifei finally heaved a heavy sigh and collapsed weakly on the chair. It looked as if he had been fished out of the water and was in a very sorry state. Chu Luiwei sighed. This was just a simple test, but it had already made him so uncomfortable. It would take a lot of effort to completely cure him. Let's stop here for today. Fourth young master, rest well. This old illness can't be rushed. Lin Qifei nodded. Thank you. Although the pain in his body was unbearable, he did feel a subtle change. This gave him a glimmer of hope in his heart. Perhaps the woman in front of him could really cure him. Fourth young master has helped us before. We're just returning the favor. Fourth young master, you don't have to mind. We won't disturb you for now. With that, Chu Luiwei left with Dugama Bao. After the two figures completely disappeared, Lin Qifei slowly closed his eyes. After a while, a voice came from the side. Fourth young master, do you need us to warn Lu Yi? Lu Yi would help suppress the things that Lu Yi did, and rarely would it reach Lin Tianfeng's ears. But yesterday, Lu Yi sent people to block the level 2 and 3 teleportation formations, intending to lock Dugiyu and her son in the city. It had already caused quite a ruckus, and they just had to ask around to find out. Lin Qifei waved his hand. No need. This time, he finally met his nemesis. Let him do as he pleases. Yes. Moreover, the Lu family has taken advantage of our Lin family. We might as well take advantage of this opportunity to get rid of them together. Fourth young master has always been a strategist. This time, it's mainly because of Dugu. Lin Chi-Face smiled. She's also a smart person. Without her help, he really wouldn't have this opportunity. More importantly, his body, if he could really recover. With such ability, I don't know what her husband is thinking. Probably blind. Chapter 1035. When Chu Luiwei brought Duga Mabao back to the inn, it was already nighttime. For the sake of convenience, and also to keep it a secret, the two of them booked a room. Chu Luiwei wanted to let him have the bed, but Duga Mabao rejected her outright. According to him, his divine body had already been formed. Even if he did not eat or sleep for a month, there would be no problem. Therefore, at night, Chu Luiwei took the big bed, and Duga Mabao stayed on the small couch at the side. The two of them had always been at peace. However, today, when Duga Mabao came back, he flew straight to the small couch and sat cross-legged. Then, he stared at Chu Luiwei with a cold expression. Chu Luiwei had just closed the door when she turned around and saw a purple dumpling emitting cold air. Cough! Chu Luiwei looked away guiltily and moved to the side, wanting to put this matter behind her. However, Duga Mabao did not let her do as she wished. How long do you plan to use this identity? Duga Mabao asked coldly. Chu Luiwei rubbed her temples and smiled awkwardly at him. Debeo, look, I have no choice. If not, we don't know how long we'll be trapped here. Moreover, I've never admitted that we're mother and son. Meeting Duga Mabao's cold gaze, Chu Luiwei immediately stopped and changed the topic. Don't worry. When we reach the place and reveal our identities, the truth will be revealed. Actually, she had never taken the initiative to admit that she was Debeo's mother, nor did she say that the person she was looking for was Debeo's father. She just changed the way she said it, and they automatically made the connection and misunderstood. All right, Debeo, don't be angry, okay? Chu Luiwei put her palms together and smiled brightly. Seeing her like this, the remaining anger in Debeo's heart quickly dissipated. He turned his face away. There won't be a next time. I knew Debeo was the best. Chu Luiwei couldn't help but rush over, wanting to rub his chubby little face. Duga Mabao seemed to have sensed something and turned to look at her. Chu Luiwei's hand was just inches away. Her movements suddenly froze. The two of them were silent for a moment. Chu Luiwei made up his mind and quickly pinched his cheeks, pulling a big smile on his face. Why are you pulling a long face all the time? It's better to smile more. After saying that, Chu Luiwei hurriedly picked up the shattered pieces of will to live and retreated at an even faster speed. I'm going to cultivate now. As soon as he finished speaking, he had already sat down cross-legged, and a red flame lingered in his palm. Duga Mabao stared blankly and instinctively reached out to touch the spot where she had just pinched. There seemed to be a trace of warmth left by her fingers. A dark color flashed across his beautiful, almost demonic purple eyes. Although he had changed his physical body, his personality hadn't changed much. She was probably the only one who had the guts and arrogance to say such things to him. She was like that in the past, and she was like that now. Duga Mabao looked at her quietly for a while, and the indifferent coldness in his eyes gradually melted. After a moment, he turned his gaze and looked at the mirror beside him. A strange, yet familiar face was reflected in the bronze mirror. His eyes flashed. This face was indeed that of a child, but it was indeed the face of him in the past. He stared at the person in the mirror for a while. The little person in the mirror was also staring at him. Her expression was cold, her eyes were cold, and there was a faint trace of heavy pressure. It looked like it was indeed a little unpleasant. His heart skipped a beat, and he tried to make the corners of his mouth curl up slowly. It was a little stiff. It was very unfamiliar. Duga Mabao felt uncomfortable in his heart, and for a moment he was a little angry. This smile wasn't good at all. It was completely different from the bright smile on her face. She just asked him to smile more, but who would like such a smile? He pursed his lips and was about to look away, but after hesitating for a while, he couldn't help but look back. After struggling for a long time, he finally pulled the corners of his mouth and changed to a smile. This time was different from the last time. Unfortunately, it looked even weirder. Duga Ma Bao resisted the urge to smash the mirror. Just as he was hesitating whether to try again, he suddenly heard a sound behind him. He panicked and hurriedly lifted the blanket, crawled under it, and turned his back, pretending to be asleep. Chu Luiwei opened her eyes and saw this scene. She couldn't help but ask curiously, "Debeo, what's wrong?" Duga Ma Bao's muffled voice came from under the blanket. "I'm going to sleep. Don't disturb me." Chu Luiwei replied with an "oh." Looking at the small bump on the small bed, Chu Luiwei finally couldn't help but remind him softly. Didn't you say that the divine body doesn't fear the cold and heat, and even if it's sleeping, it doesn't need a blanket?" Duga Ma Bao fell into a dead silence. After a while, Duga Ma Bao finally bit the bullet and lifted the blanket. His short purple hair was messed up and his ears still had a trace of redness that had not faded away. He said fiercely, "Let's go. Looks like you don't want to sleep. Great, I'll practice with you today." The next morning, the morning sun shone into the room. The two of them sat facing each other, and there was a chessboard outlined with silver lines between them. The red dots on the chessboard were Chu Yue's chess pieces, and the purple ones were Duga Ma Bao's. The battle was fierce. Oh, no, it should be said that the red chess pieces were being slaughtered by the purple chess pieces. Duga Ma Bao waved a small hand, and a purple dot fell. Boom! A purple light suddenly appeared. In an instant, it enveloped the entire chessboard. In the blink of an eye, the red chess pieces were completely destroyed. When all the light gradually dissipated, Duga Ma Bao looked at Chu Luiwei. Round 372, I won. Chu Luiwei supported herself on the armrest of the chair, panting heavily. She was sweating profusely, and the force in her body was almost exhausted. She couldn't help but say with a sad face, You won every round. Why are you counting so clearly?" "Of course, it's to let you know how weak you are now," Duga Ma Bao said calmly. "However, your improvement is also very obvious. You've made 23 moves in this round, which is much better than the start." Chu Yue's mouth twitched. "Thank you for the compliment, but it's not necessary." It was better not to compliment her. 23 moves. She had never been defeated so miserably in the hands of someone before. She rubbed her sore neck and couldn't help but glance at Duga Ma Bao. "Speaking of which, Debeo, I didn't expect you to be a Xian master too. What level are you now?" Previously, she only knew that Duga Ma Bao's combat strength was very strong, but she didn't know that his cultivation level was so high as well. At the very least, it was the first time she had seen it in her life. Duga Ma Bao said straightforwardly, "Now, you just need to know that I'm higher than you." Chu Luiwei was speechless. "Let's go. It's time for us to go to the Lin residence." As she spoke, she stood up. At this moment, there was a sudden commotion outside. Then, the door was suddenly kicked open. "Duguyu, get out here." Chapter 1036. Following this angry roar, two figures barged in from outside. Chu Luiwei raised his eyes and looked at the newcomers. They were two burly men dressed in black. Their muscles bulged exaggeratedly, and their faces were fierce and ferocious. Outside the door, the waiter looked at them nervously. He seemed to be worried, but he did not dare to come forward. Chu Luiwei saw this and immediately understood the identity of the newcomers. Lu Yi's men. Chu Luiwei asked coldly, "Hey, these little girls had some eyesight." One of the men spoke in a deep voice. When it reached her ears, it was as if her heart was being smashed by something. Both of them were stronger than her. Chu Luiwei quickly judged the situation in front of her. While quietly protecting Duga Ma Bao behind her, she quickly circulated the force in her body and sneered. "He has already ordered us not to use the teleportation portal at Grotto Heaven Cliff. Isn't that enough? How far does he want to push us before he gives up? Oomph. You offended someone you shouldn't offend and still want to escape unscathed. How can there be such a good thing?" The other man next to him sneered. "Our big brother doesn't have that much patience." It turned out that Lu Yi originally thought that after all the teleportation portals were sealed, Duga Yu would definitely kowtow and apologize. But he did not expect that after waiting for a day and a night, he did not even see half a shadow. This made him even angrier. Duguyu was different from the others. She was an outsider. It was harder for her to survive here than others. There was no way she didn't know about this. However, even at this point, she was still stubbornly holding on without showing any expression. This made Lu Yi feel very embarrassed. After all, the matter had already been blown out of proportion. Many people at Grotto Heaven Cliff knew that he was targeting Duguyu. If he still could not get rid of her after such a long time, where would he put his dignity in the future? Therefore, Louis could not take this lying down and directly sent people to the door. Come with us. Chu Luiwei calmed himself down. I'm sorry, but I have something important to do today. Please forgive me for not being able to travel with you. Although her voice was very soft, her tone was very firm and did not allow for rejection. This attitude immediately angered the other party. You refuse a toast only to drink a forfeit. I'll teach you a good lesson today. Before he finished speaking, a burly man had already rushed over. He punched out. The wind from the fist whistled. In the blink of an eye, it was right in front of him. Chu Luiwei quickly set up a barrier in front of him. Boom! The barrier only lasted for a moment before it began to crack. Taking advantage of this brief moment, Chu Luiwei pulled up his Dugu Ma Bao and jumped out of the window behind him. The two figures instantly disappeared. Chase! People came and went on the streets. Chu Luiwei and Wang Chang's sudden jump down attracted a lot of attention. Over there, Chu Luiwei had just stood still when he heard a loud shout from not far away. She quickly glanced in that direction. Dugu Ma Bao whispered, 3 people in the north and 2 in the south. Their strength is above a rank 8 warrior. It turned out that Lu Yi had directly sent a group of people to surround and intercept her. This road was to the north and south, and now her path was completely blocked. Let's see where you can run to. At this moment, the 2 people upstairs also jumped down together. Just these alone, there were already a total of 8 people. Chu Yui's mind raced, gritted his teeth, and headed west. This Lu Yi really thinks highly of me. Chu Luiwei sneered as he moved forward at full speed. He already knows that you can teleport, so naturally, he will be more vigilant against you. Dugu Ma Bao knew that the situation was urgent and did not care about being hugged by Chu Luiwei again. He put this account on Lu Yi's head. Chu Luiwei and Dugu Ma Bao went all the way, and the people on the street all dodged. Behind them, Chu Luiwei had already heard the sound of those people chasing after them. Everyone had different expressions, but no one wanted to come up to help. Instead, they all avoided them like snakes and scorpions. Chu Luiwei sneered, but he was not surprised. They must know that these were Lu Yi's people, so who would dare to provoke them? Originally, he thought that they would not go too far in the downtown area. But now, it seemed that this path would not work. Lu Yi, together with his subordinates, were very arrogant. They did not put these in their eyes at all. Since this didn't work then, he had to find another way. Chu Yui's thoughts moved, and he directly turned around and headed towards the small street. Damn it, how can this woman be so fast? At first, they did not put Chu Luiwei in their eyes. After all, there were so many of them. Moreover, even if Chu Luiwei could enter the Void God realm, his strength was not weak. It would be inconvenient for him to bring a child with him. They did not expect that after chasing for a while, they were still a distance away from Chu Luiwei. Don't worry, she won't be able to escape. This heavenly cave cliff is full of our people. She will fall sooner or later. Her speed seems to be slower than before. Chase after her. The surrounding noise gradually dissipated, and Chu Luiwei entered a remote and quiet place. At this time, the people behind had already caught up. One of them directly attacked and threw out a force. Chu Luiwei hurriedly dealt with it. Then, like a headless fly, he crawled into an alley. You're courting death. When the people chasing after him saw this, they looked at each other and laughed proudly. Swoosh! Swoosh! The group of people divided into 2 groups and attacked from the front and back. Chu Luiwei entered the alley and seemed to realize that something was wrong. Just as he was about to turn around and retreat, the entrance of the alley was already blocked. Where do you think you're going? A few burly men lined up in a row, easily blocking her way. Chu Yoyue's expression changed slightly. Then, he quickly looked behind him and saw a few people quickly appearing behind him. They had completely surrounded him in this narrow and quiet alley. The atmosphere fell into a stalemate. The man in the lead looked down at Chu Luiyue. Do you want to leave by yourself? Or do you want us to bring you away? Chu Luiyue paused. What if I don't choose? You don't know what's good for you. Seeing that Chu Luiyue was not going to give in, they lost their patience. The man in the lead waved his hand. Take her back, as long as she's still alive. After saying that, the few of them were about to attack when they saw the woman suddenly smile. Her smile was light and bright, and her eyes were like stars. It made her originally very ordinary face look lively and beautiful. Are you guys coming one by one or together? Hearing this, the few men were stunned. Then, one of them sneered as if he had heard a joke. You want to fight us? With just you? Chu Luiyue tilted his head. With just me. Chapter 1037. Lu Yi was waiting in his mansion, bored to death. It's been so long. Why haven't they come back yet? He glanced at the sky and asked impatiently. A young woman serving next to him hurriedly said, maybe they were delayed by something. It's just catching someone back. What can be delayed? Lu Yi didn't think so. They didn't do their job well. I must teach them a lesson when they come back. The woman saw that he was about to get angry, so she followed his words and said softly, they are your subordinates. What do you want to do? How do you want to deal with them? Isn't it just a matter of a word? It's not worth getting angry over this. Hearing her say this, Lu Yi's mood improved a little, and he touched the woman's waist with an evil smile. Pan, you are the most obedient, the most pleasing to this young master. Pan, smiled gently and shyly, leaning into his arms. Young master, you are someone who will do great things in the future. Isn't it degrading to argue with them? Just the fact that you can go to that place to participate in the Holy Son's birthday banquet. I don't know how many people envy you. Hearing this, Lu Yi, who was still smiling, frowned and pushed her to the ground. Pan, cried out in pain and looked up in panic, only to see his gloomy face. She asked timidly, Young master, what's wrong with you? Lu Yi swept the tea set on the table next to him to the ground. Don't mention it. Last night, the Lin Mansion sent a message saying that I can't go. Pan-er's eyes widened. Why is this? Didn't we agree before? Lu Yi sneered and cursed. It's all because of that sick man. He said that he wanted to bring an extra celestial physician to take care of him. The quota at Cave Heaven Cliff is limited, so that old man Lin Tianfeng directly replaced me. In fact, according to his identity and qualifications, he was not qualified to go. Luiyue helped him for a long time in the middle, and finally helped him get this opportunity. He didn't expect that when he was about to leave, there would be another accident. The father and son have long disliked me, especially that Lin Qifei. This time, he must be the one behind it. Logically speaking, an evil creature who had cursed his own mother to death should have died long ago. Who would have thought that with this delay, he would actually survive until now? And Lin Tianfeng just had to treat him the best. If it wasn't for him, my sister wouldn't have stayed in the Lin family for so many years without giving birth to a son. The more Lu Yi spoke, the angrier he got. His chest seemed to be burning with rage. Pan fell to the ground, trembling, not daring to say a word. Lu Yi took a deep breath and suddenly sneered. However, he won't be complacent for long. Young master. Not good. At this moment, a panicked voice suddenly came from outside the courtyard. A pale-faced manservant ran over and knelt down in front of Lu Yi, pointing outside. Young master. Bad news. Outside the door. Lu Yi kicked him. Speak properly. The manservant felt a dull pain in his chest, but he didn't dare to make a sound. Young master, they're back. They're now at the door, outside the door. You should go and see for yourself. Lu Yi finally realized that something was wrong and immediately lifted his foot to walk outside. When he walked straight all the way to the gate, he saw a few boxes placed outside the door at a glance. The boxes were unlocked, and seemed to have been opened by someone. At the edge, he could vaguely see some bloodstains. As for the guards who were in charge of guarding the door, they were all standing to the side in fear. It was as if there was something terrifying in the box. Lu Yi's heart sank. "Open a box," he ordered in a deep voice. The guards looked at each other and finally stepped forward together and carefully opened the box. Patter. The box was opened. When he saw what was inside, Lu Yi's pupils shrank. The people inside were none other than the few people he had sent out. Taking a closer look, there were exactly 8 of them. At this time, they were all covered in blood and stuffed into the box in a strange posture. It was a ghastly sight. "Young master, they're not dead yet," but one of the guards braced himself and said, "But their tendons have been cut off. I'm afraid they will be crippled in the future." This was even crueler and more ruthless than directly killing someone. Death would be the end of everything, and people like them would be crippled from now on. That would only make them suffer more pain and torture. Lu Yi's face was ashen, and he could not believe it. It went without saying how they got injured. It must be that Yu who did it. He clenched his fists so tightly that his knuckles almost cracked. "Yu, you are courting death." When Chu Luiwei arrived at the gate of the Lin mansion, a guard greeted her with a smile. "Miss Dugu, you are finally here. Master and 4th young master have been waiting for you for a long time." Chu Luiwei smiled faintly. "There was a little trouble on the way, so I was delayed for a while." It's fine. Please come in." With that, the guard quickly led Chu Luiwei and Dugu Mabao into the mansion. After a smooth journey, they finally arrived at Lin Qifei's courtyard. As soon as they entered, Lin Tianfeng and Lin Qifei both looked over. Lin Tianfeng hurriedly said, "Miss Dugu, the herbs are all prepared, and they are all here. See if there is anything missing." Chu Luiwei walked over with a smile. "Master Lin personally prepared the herbs, so there will naturally be no problem. Next, let's start refining." Lin Tianfeng hurriedly nodded. Lin Qifei's nose twitched as he sniffed. He looked up at Chu Luiwei. What a strong smell of blood. "Digression. It's the end of the month. Don't forget to vote. We will continue at 6 p.m. Chapter 1038. Chu Luiwei seemed to sense something. She looked up at him and smiled. "4th young master, what's wrong?" Looking at that pair of clear eyes, Lin Qifei withdrew his line of sight and shook his head gently. "Nothing. I'll have to trouble Miss Dugu for my condition." Chu Luiwei smiled deeply. "4th young master, you're welcome." She walked over to check Lin Qifei's pulse. "Before I go into refined pills, I'd like to check on 4th young master's condition." Lin Qifei stretched out his hand. His sleeve, embroidered with bamboo leaves, was pulled up slightly, revealing a slender, white wrist. One could even see the veins on it. Chu Luiwei raised her hand. Lin Tianfeng suddenly handed over a handkerchief and was about to put it on his wrist. Lin Qifei raised his eyes and glanced at him. He said indifferently, "Thank you, father. But since I've already agreed to Miss Dugu's help, there's no need for this." Lin Tianfeng was stunned. Surprise flashed across his eyes. He said no need? But didn't he hate being touched the most? Because there was once someone who pretended to be a celestial physician and took advantage of the opportunity to take his pulse. Lin Qifei had been very cautious in this regard ever since. But now he actually trusted Dugu so much? Lin Tianfeng was puzzled. But seeing his calm expression, he didn't continue and put away the handkerchief. Okay, then please continue, Miss Dugu." Chu Luiwei didn't seem to notice the confrontation between father and son. She smiled faintly and stretched out her hand to check his pulse. Compared to yesterday, Lin Qifei's aura was clearly stronger. Although it couldn't be compared to a normal person, it was much better than his initial condition. Chu Luiwei nodded and injected a stream of force into his body. Then, she followed the same procedure as yesterday and did it again. Lin Qifei's expression was one of forbearance. Throughout the entire process, he did not let out a single cry of pain. However, his complexion became even paler, and many fine beads of sweat appeared on his forehead. He looked very miserable. Lin Tianfeng, who was watching from the side, was scared witless. So, this is how Dugu treats Ji Fei? Yesterday, he had left early and didn't see it. Today, when he suddenly saw it, his heart almost jumped out of his throat. There were even a few times when Lin Tianfeng's heart ached too much. If it weren't for Ji Fei's constant signals to calm him down, he would have opened his mouth to shout for them to stop. This time, Chu Luiyue helped him clean up some of the strange things that had accumulated in his Yuan meridian. To her, this was also a huge drain. When it was over, she let out a long sigh. All right, I'll go refine medicine first. Fourth young master, you can rest and recuperate for now. Lin Jifei saw that she looked a little tired, so he asked, what's wrong? Miss Dugu, you also seem to need a good rest. I've been sick for many years, so a little more won't make a difference. Why don't we wait for Miss Dugu to recover before continuing? Lin Tianfeng expressed his agreement. That's right. Although I'm not a celestial physician, I know that celestial physicians often expend a lot of energy when refining pills. Miss Dugu, you see, thank you for your concern, Patriarch Lin and Fourth Princess. I know what I'm doing and won't do anything rash. Chu Luiyue stood up and smiled. More than anyone else, I hope that this pill refinement will succeed on the first try. Naturally, I will make preparations. The two of you don't need to worry. However, there's one thing. This pill refinement will take about a day and a night. I hope Patriarch Lin can help protect me. If it were someone else, they most likely wouldn't have the guts to directly ask Lin Tianfeng to protect them. Generally speaking, only the most powerful 9th-grade celestial physician in the clan could ask Lin Tianfeng for help. But in the face of Chu Luiyue's bold proposal, Lin Tianfeng agreed without hesitation. No problem. As long as she could take care of Ji Fei in the end, this was nothing. I've already ordered someone to arrange a room for Miss Dugu to use for pill refinement. It's not far from here. Also, I wonder if Miss Dugu still needs something like a medicinal cauldron? Lin Tianfeng asked tentatively. Our Lin family happens to have a collection of medicinal cauldrons that are very useful for pill refinement. Miss Dugu, thank you for your kindness, Patriarch Lin. But I have my own medicinal cauldron, so I don't need to borrow yours. Chu Luiyue declined with a smile. Lin Tianfeng was slightly disappointed. Then, all right, Dugu was an outsider, so her medicinal cauldron shouldn't be any better. He had wanted to provide her with a better medicinal cauldron so that she could refine pills more smoothly, but he didn't expect her to be so uninterested. However, Lin Tianfeng knew that most celestial physicians were a little arrogant. Since she had said so, there was no need to persuade her anymore. Then, Chu Luiyue took the medicinal herbs to the room specially set aside for her pill refinement. At the door, Lin Tianfeng looked at Dugu Mabao and asked, Miss Dugu, since you want to focus on pill refinement, why don't we take care of this child for the time being? Dugu Mabao frowned. Chu Luiyue hurriedly said, Thank you, Patriarch Lin, but this child is afraid of strangers. Let him go in with me. Lin Tianfeng found it a little strange. Wouldn't such a small child be a hindrance if he went in? But it just so happens that Debeo is preparing to start learning celestial physician. It's not a problem to let him follow along. Chu Luiyue added. Lin Tianfeng choked. If he wanted to learn from his mother, there was nothing for outsiders to say. At this time, Lin Jifei, who was next to him, also opened his mouth. Since Miss Dugu insists, then let's do it. Chu Luiyue was relieved. She bowed to the two of them, turned around, and walked in with Dugu Mabao. After the two of them disappeared, Lin Tianfeng looked at Lin Jifei and sighed. Jifei, you seem to have a lot of trust in them. Lin Jifei glanced at the tightly shut doors and windows, and a slight ripple appeared in the depths of his clear eyes. She's just a pitiful girl with a child alone. Lin Tianfeng felt suffocated in his heart. He knew that Jifei was like this because he thought of him when he saw them. Actually, what happened to your mother back then really had nothing to do with you. Besides, it's been so long. Jifei, you don't have to take it to heart. Lin Tianfeng said with some hesitation. Besides, you didn't have a child all these years because of you. Are you still unwilling to let go of your prejudice against her? Hearing this, Lin Jifei's indifferent and calm expression finally showed a trace of fluctuation. His pale lips curled up slightly as he looked at Lin Tianfeng, a faint smile appearing on his face. The sunlight shone on his face, making him look like a piece of glass that was both bright and fragile. Whatever father says, it's what it is. You. Lin Tianfeng choked and was about to say something when he heard a slightly nervous and urgent female voice. Master, not good. Chapter 1039. It was Lu Yuer's voice. Lin Tianfeng looked up and saw Lu Yuer hurrying in from outside the courtyard, her face full of anxiety. When she reached the courtyard gate, she was stopped by a servant, as expected. Mistress, please wait. Lu Yuer's already anxious mood worsened when she was stopped. She was the mistress of a Lin family, but she didn't even have the right to enter this small courtyard. She hadn't been able to take a single step in all these years. Because Lin Qifei lived here, the entire Lin family couldn't enter at will. Even Lin Tianfeng had to send someone to notify them. However, the other members of the Lin family had more or less entered, but she hadn't been allowed even once. Everyone in the Lin family knew that Lin Qifei didn't like her as a stepmother. Even if she had become the mistress of a Lin family, he still didn't care about her. But no matter how much hatred she felt, Lu Yuer wouldn't show it in front of these people. So she stood obediently outside the door and looked inside with a face full of anxiety. Soon, Lin Tianfeng came over. What's wrong? What's the hurry? Lin Tianfeng pulled Lu Yuer aside as he walked. Lu Yuer's heart felt stifled again, but she didn't show it. She only grabbed Lin Tianfeng's arm anxiously with tears in her eyes. Master, you rarely asks you for anything, but this time, you really has no other choice, she cried pitifully, and Lin Tianfeng's heart ached for her. Don't cry. What's going on? I'll definitely help you. Only then did Lu Yuer wipe away her tears and say intermittently, It's about Lu. A trace of impatience flashed across Lin Tianfeng's face when he heard this name. He's really been bullied this time. Lu Yuer complained tearfully. Lin Tianfeng said indifferently, He has always been the one bullying others. When has anyone ever been able to bully him? Lu Yuer knew that he never liked Lu Yi, so when Lu Yi made trouble, she tried her best to suppress it and not let it spread here. But it was different this time. Master, you don't know, but several of Lu Yi's subordinates were beaten half to death this time. Their tendons were also cut off. They were stuffed into boxes and sent to Lu Yi's door. If this wasn't a threat, then what was it? Lin Tianfeng's expression changed slightly. Really, there were probably not many people in the entire Heavenly Cave Cliff who would dare to do such a thing. Why would you lie to you? He came just now, and his clothes were stained with blood. Lu Yuer's eyes flashed with resentment. She really hated the people who treated Lu Yi like this behind his back. So this time, she came to complain tearfully. Things had turned out like this. If she couldn't help Lu Yi, then in the future, many people in Dantian Cliff would ridicule and abuse him. Lin Tianfeng frowned. Do you know who the person is? Lu Yuer was stunned for a moment and hurriedly said, This. I didn't have time to ask. But the person who dares to do this in Dantian Cliff must not be a simple person. In Yuer's opinion, this time, maybe it's because of the Lin family. Maybe, although Lu Yi was not a member of the Lin family, who didn't know his relationship with the Lin family, daring to be so ruthless to him, they obviously didn't put the Lin family in their eyes. Wasn't acting wildly in the Lin family's territory a provocation to the Lin family? Lin Tianfeng frowned when he heard this. Master, why don't you let Lu Yi come over now and talk to you personally? Lu Yuer asked tentatively. Lin Tianfeng pondered for a moment, looked back, and shook his head. Not today. Why? I have something to do today. Tell him to come back tomorrow. Although Lu Yi's matter was not small, it was not as important as Qifei's elixir. Dugu asked him to help protect her, so he must not go back on his words. Otherwise, if something went wrong, who could bear the responsibility? Hearing Lin Tianfeng's words, Lu Yuer almost guessed something. She couldn't help but take a look inside. You're busy with Qifei's matter? Lin Tianfeng didn't hear anything wrong in her voice and just nodded. You go back first, just wait for a day. Tomorrow at this time, bring Lu Yi over. With that, he turned around and planned to go in. Master, Lu Yi shouted unwillingly. Lin Tianfeng glanced at her and pondered for a moment. Why don't you send someone to investigate first and see what's going on? I'll deal with this matter tomorrow. After saying that, he ignored Lu Yi and walked straight in. Lu Yi looked at his back, gradually disappearing, and slowly clenched her fists. Her delicately manicured nails dug deep into her palms, stinging. She suddenly woke up, took a deep breath, and turned to leave. What? He won't see me? Hearing Lu Yi's words, he suddenly jumped out of his chair. I've already been bullied to the point of being on top of my head. How can he still be so indifferent? Even if he doesn't do it for me, he has to consider the Lin family's reputation. What are you shouting for? Lu Yi was also very irritated and reprimanded. You're not his son. He naturally won't care about you. In the past 2 days, a celestial physician came and said that she could cure Lin Qifei's illness. Of course he's nervous. He couldn't help but sneer. It's been so long. How many celestial physicians have come? He still hasn't given up. That Lin Qifei is just waiting for death. Maybe this time, on the way there, Lu Yi gave him a warning glare. Although this is my residence, it's still the Lin family. Watch your words. If you have the time, why don't you tell me in detail who's so bold to do these things? He was a little guilty. In the end, he wanted to rob the other party first. Lu Yi had reminded him several times before not to be so blatant. If she knew, I'm not sure now. The other party didn't leave any clues. He lowered his eyes and said vaguely. Lu Yi was very irritated. It's useless. Then let's wait first. It would be much easier to wait for the Lin family to investigate. Although Lu Yi was sullen, he didn't dare to say anything more and could only agree. Inside the room, Chu Luiyue first set up a barrier around the room. After making sure that the aura and fluctuations here wouldn't spread outside, he summoned the heavenly square cauldron. Are you really going to use this thing? Duga Mabao saw the transparent cauldron and his eyes flashed slightly. This is my biggest reliance at the moment. Chu Luiyue shrugged. Otherwise, I'm not confident that I can refine the pill in one try. Duga Mabao pondered for a moment. You're really willing to be able to get the pill refined by Chu Luiyue with the heavenly square cauldron? Lin Qifei was also very lucky. Chu Luiyue curled his lips. It's not lost to use this pill in exchange for the opportunity to attend the birthday banquet of His Highness Saint. Digression. Rong Xiao, my wife seems to be scolding me. February, get rid of the seams. Rong Xiao? Chapter 1040. Duga Mabao acutely sensed a faint, terrifying aura. He did not continue the topic. This woman was terrifying when she went crazy. Let Rong Xiao bear the consequences himself. Whoever made a mistake should bear the consequences. Whoever hid the truth should bear the consequences. As Chu Luiyue counted the herbs and lined them up, she glanced at Duga Mabao in a seemingly unintentional manner and asked in a seemingly smiling manner, Don't you think so, Debao? Duga Mabao nodded reluctantly. And then boom, a ball of red flames suddenly burned in the heavenly square cauldron. Duga Mabao's eyes twitched. But at least the name is real. Chu Luiyue controlled the flames in the heavenly square cauldron with one hand. She waved her other hand and threw a red fist-sized 10,000 fragrance immortal fruit into the cauldron. The dancing red flames swarmed forward and devoured it completely. Soon, the 10,000 fragrance immortal fruit was refined into a ball of light red powder. A faint, sweet, and slightly bitter aroma filled the air. Otherwise, it would be impossible to find it in this vast world. Chu Luiyue smiled faintly and said slowly, as if she was teasing him. The dancing flames reflected in her eyes, making it hard to fathom. Duga Mabao suddenly regretted following her in. Waiting outside didn't seem like a bad idea. Debao, you said that I lost my memory. Why does the whole world know except for me? Chu Luiyue asked lazily, as she threw the second herb into the cauldron. It was a cocklebur root as thick as an arm. The red flames in the heavenly square cauldron split into two and wrapped around it tightly. Then, it quickly tightened and burned crazily. Following a series of ear-piercing crackling sounds, the green and tender skin of the cocklebur root quickly dried up. The bright red juice inside also started to drip down. Dugamabao looked at the tightly shut door and the barrier that was glowing faintly. He fell silent. If he didn't use his origin power, he wouldn't be able to open the barrier and leave. Dabeo, why aren't you saying anything? Chu Luiwei raised his eyebrows slightly and glanced at him. Dugamabao changed his sitting position and turned his face away. You will eventually know what you need to know. Fine. It was as good as not saying anything. Chu Luiwei pursed his lips slightly, but he didn't care too much. She did not expect to get anything out of Dugamabao. If he was willing to speak, he would have done so a long time ago. Why wait until now? However, this also made her even more certain that he had long known about Rongshio's identity as the Holy Sun. But until now, they still refused to tell her. Forget it. Anyway, he was about to go, so he could just ask directly when the time came. Thinking of this, Chu Luiwei waved his hand. The dozens of medicinal herbs on the side all fell into the heavenly square cauldron. She held her breath and focused her attention, beginning to put all her thoughts on refining medicine. The room was silent. Lin Qifei waited outside the door for a while, but he didn't hear any movement inside. He understood that she must have set up a barrier inside to isolate everything. When he first met her, he didn't think much of her. This woman looked ordinary, but she was bold and meticulous. He didn't know who her master was, for her eyes to be so sharp. If she didn't have that child with her talent, she should be able to create a world of her own in the world of God very quickly. Lin Tianfeng returned quickly. Lin Qifei wanted to leave immediately, but he was stopped. Looking at him, Zhifei, the elders have already done according to the method you gave them. That teleportation array should be repaired soon. This time it's all thanks to you. Lin Qifei smiled faintly, but his eyes were still cold and distant. I just gave some suggestions. The repair of the teleportation array depended on the combined efforts of the elders. It has nothing to do with me. Father, don't take it to heart. Lin Tianfeng sighed. I know that you don't want people to know that it was you who did it, so I never told them. You have been very low-key all these years, and this is not the first time something like this has happened. But you are still the blood of the Lin family. If Dugu can really cure you this time, the Lin family. That's all in the future, and we don't know yet. Father, don't mention it. I'm a little tired, so I'll take my leave. With that, Lin Qifei left without waiting for Lin Tianfeng's reply. Lin Tianfeng couldn't help but sigh when that figure disappeared. So many people wanted to fight for the position of the head of the Lin family, but he wasn't interested at all. He knew that a large part of the reason was that Lin Qifei was worried about his own health. But this time, Lin Tianfeng turned around to take a look. Now, all his hopes were placed on that woman. Time flew by. When Chu Luiwei finally finished refining all the herbs, the moon was already high in the sky. Inside the heavenly square cauldron, all the herbs were separated from each other, looking colorful. All kinds of scents mixed together, forming a unique medicinal fragrance. Although it wasn't the first time Chu Luiwei used the heavenly square cauldron, she couldn't help but sigh. A cauldron that could directly refine such a pure medicinal effect was really hard to find, even if one searched the entire world. This also made her more confident of success. Now that the herbs had been refined, the next step was to form the pill. Chu Luiwei made up her mind. Then, she controlled the flame and gradually fused the herbs together. At this moment, the bottom of the heavenly square cauldron suddenly emitted a buzzing sound. Digression. Seeing that the monthly votes seemed to have overtaken one place, I angrily added one more chapter. In addition, there are already 36 competitors for the star of the monthly votes. The first batch is already on their way. Chapter 1041. Chu Luiwei was shocked and immediately looked over. She saw that at the bottom of the heavenly square cauldron, The two Tian babies had gathered together and were circling each other, and that buzzing sound was the result of the mutual influence between their powers. An invisible ripple rapidly spread out. Chu Luiwei was shocked and slammed her hand on the heavenly square cauldron. The transparent karmic fire burned brightly. Stop! Flames began to rise. Like a sprite jumping, it quickly intercepted that wave of energy. Buzz! The remaining power hit the inner wall of the heavenly square cauldron and made a loud roar. Half of Chu Luiwei's arm was numb, but she didn't dare to let go. Her palm was still tightly attached to the heavenly square cauldron, and she continued to inject force into it. She controlled the transparent karmic fire and completely suppressed it. After a while, the waves finally calmed down. Looking at the two Tian babies that had calmed down and were quietly staying in the flames at the bottom of the heavenly square cauldron, Chu Luiwei let out a long breath. Almost, if her reaction was a little slower or if she didn't have enough strength, then the two Tian babies would have already broken free. At this moment, Chu Luiwei was very glad that she had broken through to become a rank 7 warrior and had devoured the rich power left behind by the northern underworld Taizu. Otherwise, she really couldn't deal with this situation. This thing is so cunning. Chu Luiwei came back to her senses and stared at the seemingly innocent two Tian baby with a frown. Just now, she had clearly sensed that this thing wanted to take the opportunity to escape. You are refining pills, and most of your energy and attention is placed elsewhere, so your control of the karmic fire is naturally reduced. It's normal that the two Tian baby would choose to try to escape at this time. Compared to Chu Luiwei's nervousness and fear, Duga Ma Bao, who was sitting next to her, was much calmer. When you are stronger and have complete control of it, there won't be this trouble. Chu Luiwei's brows twitched. Then what level do I have to reach? Duga Ma Bao glanced at her. Naturally, it's a level that can forge a divine body. Chu Luiwei. Pretend I didn't ask. Duga Ma Bao narrowed his eyes. Did this girl think that a two Tian baby was an ordinary item? Although the heavenly square cauldron can help you suppress it, you still have to rely on your own strength to completely subdue it. Chu Luiwei sighed. I know. I just find it a little troublesome. Duga Ma Bao's eyes twitched. There were countless experts in the world who wanted to obtain this item, but were unable to do so. She had 2 of them, but she actually found it troublesome. You really don't know how lucky you are. If that's the case, then every time I use the heavenly square cauldron to refine medicine, this two Tian baby might come out and cause trouble. Thinking of this, Chu Luiwei looked at the medicinal herbs that had just gathered together with a slight headache. Refining medicine required concentration. Fortunately, this was just the beginning, so she could still spare some energy to deal with this accident. However, if it were to do this in the middle of refining the pill, or at the last moment, then she couldn't guarantee that anything would happen. It won't do this every time. Duga Ma Bao paused. Besides, as long as the heavenly square cauldron is here, it won't be able to cause any trouble. Hearing this, Chu Luiwei looked at him with some surprise. Duga Ma Bao's evaluation of the heavenly square cauldron was actually so high. She clearly remembered that Taizu had once said that this two Tian baby was an item that only powerful experts had, and it was extraordinarily powerful. If the heavenly square cauldron was more powerful than it, then continue refining medicine. Duga Ma Bao glanced outside. The twilight was heavy, and it was quiet. The movement just now didn't spread outside. Don't worry. Chu Luiwei gently nodded and put away this thought. After confirming that the karmic fire below had completely suppressed the two Tian baby, she continued to refine medicine. Fortunately, she had been paying attention to this side just now. The red flame wrapped around the medicinal herbs that had begun to fuse, almost isolating all the fluctuations outside, so it was not affected. Chu Luiwei took a deep breath and began to refine the pill. The night passed quickly. When a morning sun shone down and the sky was bright, Lin Tianfeng couldn't help but turn his head to look at the still tightly closed door. This night, there was almost no movement from inside. He waited outside anxiously, but he didn't dare to disturb. What he didn't know was that outside the courtyard, Lu Yiwei had already arrived with Lu Yi to wait. In order not to disturb the people inside, Lu Yiwei deliberately didn't let anyone report and just waited with Lu Yi by the wall. Time passed little by little. Lu Yi gradually became a little impatient. Sister, you are now the mistress of the Lin family. Can't you just say where you want to go? Why you have to compromise like this? Look at Lin Qifei's eyes. After dismissing the servants, Lu Yi finally couldn't help but complain in a low voice. Lu Yiwei glared at him. What do you know? This was the only way she could stand on the high ground. Lin Qifei was Lin Tianfeng's favorite son. If he did something excessive, Lin Tianfeng couldn't bear to criticize him. If it weren't for Lin Tianfeng's connivance, would Lin Qifei dare to do this? On the surface, it seemed that she bowed her head to Lin Qifei, but in fact, she was giving Lin Tianfeng face. What was a little grievance? As long as she could make Lin Tianfeng feel guilty, wouldn't it be easy to get whatever he wanted in the future? It was thanks to this that she could reach her current position. She relaxed her expression and said, "The celestial physician inside is refining pills, and Master is helping to protect him. When this pill is completed, it might be able to cure fourth young Master's illness." Lu Yi sneered. What celestial physician? How many celestial physician has Lin Qifei seen over the years? Even the chief celestial physician of the Lin family, the first elder, can't do anything. That's a genuine 9th grade celestial physician. What can the others do? He vaguely heard that this celestial physician was found by himself. If she really had the ability, why would she do this? Don't talk so much, Lu Yiwei reminded him. You'd better think about what to say to old Master when you see him later. Lu Yi choked, and only then did he stop. At this moment, a wave of energy suddenly came from the courtyard. Buzz! A crisp and melodious sound of collision was heard. Very quickly, a strong medicinal fragrance also spread out. Lu Yiwei took a deep breath. She felt refreshed and comfortable all over. Immediately, her eyes widened in shock. How can this be a 7th grade pill? This wave, this smell, it's definitely not something a 7th grade pill can have. In the courtyard, Lin Tianfeng was also at a loss. Creak! The door opened. A slender and tall figure walked out from within. Lin Tianfeng hurriedly stepped forward. Chu Yuyue's face was a little pale, and there were faint dark circles under her eyes, but there was a satisfied smile at the corner of her mouth. Patriarch Lin, fortunately, I didn't disappoint. As she spoke, she handed over a jade box. A crimson medicinal pill was quietly lying within. 8 lines could be seen clearly. Lin Tianfeng sucked in a cold breath. An 8th grade pill. Chapter 1042. Although the 8th line looked much fainter than the previous lines, it was still there. This was indeed an 8th grade pill. Lin Tianfeng almost thought that he had seen wrongly. He stared at the pill several times, still unable to come back to his senses. Didn't you say that you were a 7th grade celestial physician? Chu Luiyue smiled brightly. I was indeed a 7th grade celestial physician back then, but I didn't say that I couldn't refine an 8th grade pill. Since I succeeded this time, then I should be considered an 8th grade one. Chu Luiyue stroked her chin thoughtfully as she spoke. She was actually quite surprised, because the pill she was going to refine was indeed an upper 7th grade pill. But perhaps it was because the herbs were of superior quality, or perhaps it was because she used the heavenly square cauldron. In any case, when she came out in the end, she went up a level and barely reached the lower 8th grade. This was a pleasant surprise. Lin Tianfeng. She was a 7th grade celestial physician back then, but now she refined an 8th grade pill? Did she break through the shackles and become an 8th grade celestial physician in just one day and night of refining this pill? How could there be such a thing in the world? Lin Tianfeng thought that he was someone who had seen great storms, but when he saw the nonchalant smile of the girl in front of him, he was speechless. He wanted to say something, but his throat tightened. The cultivation of a celestial physician was much more complicated and difficult than that of a martial artist or a Xian master, not to mention the majority of those without talent. Even those who were lucky enough to be born with some talent in celestial physician cultivation had a particularly difficult path. An 8th grade celestial physician and a 7th grade celestial physician were worlds apart. He had seen countless celestial physicians who were stuck at this step their entire lives, unable to break through the barrier until their deaths. But Dugu didn't seem to care about this at all. Click! Chu Luiwei closed the jade box, and the rich medicinal fragrance was instantly blocked. However, there was still a lingering fragrance in the air. Just a light sniff was enough to make one feel comfortable. Miss Dugu is indeed amazing. She succeeded in refining the pill on her first try. At this moment, Lin Qifei also walked out of the room next door. It was probably because Chu Luiwei had been taking care of him for the past 2 days that his originally pale and haggard face looked much better. Currently, he was standing with his hands behind his back. His handsome face was carrying a faint smile. At first glance, he truly looked like a rare noble. Chu Luiwei raised his eyebrows slightly and walked over with a smile, offering the jade box. This is only the first pill. You will need to continue to treat it, and the process will be more difficult. I hope that 4th young master will be more forgiving. Lin Qifei took the elixir, his thin lips slightly hooked. If I can exchange it for my life, then this pain is nothing. However, this time, I owe you a favor. Although Dugu said that her help was to repay him for helping her in the gate realm of the divine ruins. However, it was just a small matter for him, while she was doing him a great favor. Although she had her own considerations, but, to him, those were not important. The important thing was that she had still helped him a great deal. Chu Luiwei smiled. 4th young master is too polite. She had no relatives in the divine ruins. If she could establish a relationship with the Lin family, it would undoubtedly be much more convenient. In particular, Lin Qifei was much more powerful than he appeared to be. If she could make him owe her a favor, there would be no disadvantages. At this moment, the servant came forward and said carefully, "Patriarch, Mistress has been waiting outside with young Master Lu for a while. You see, previously, he didn't dare to come over to report. Now that he saw that Chu Luiwei had finished refining the pill, he came over to ask for instructions. When Lin Tianfeng heard that Lu Yi had also come, he subconsciously frowned and glanced at Lin Qifei. However, Lin Qifei didn't seem to care. Father, if you have something to do, just do it. Lin Tianfeng wanted to say something, but stopped. He originally wanted to wait for Lin Qifei to use this pill and see the effect before leaving. But he didn't expect Lu Yi and the others to come so early. Then I'll go and take a look first, and then he paused and looked at Chu Luiwei. After that, I'll have to trouble Miss Dugu to take care of Jifei's body. Chu Luiwei nodded gently. Patriarch Lin, don't worry. Only then did Lin Tianfeng feel relieved and leave. 4th young master, I'll accompany you in. After taking this pill, there may be some reactions. It'll be easier for me to deal with it by your side. Chu Luiwei said. The previous 2 days were all small fries. Now, this medicinal pill was the real main event. Whether Lin Qifei's body could withstand it or not was another matter. Since she agreed to help, of course she would take responsibility. However, when Lin Qifei heard this, he suddenly smiled. No hurry. There was a slight ripple in his clear and distant eyes. It won't be too late to use the pill after Miss Dugu's problem is solved. Chu Luiwei's heart skipped a beat, and she looked up at him. The two's eyes met, and undercurrents surged. After a moment, Chu Luiwei raised her eyebrows and smiled. Then, thank you, 4th young master. On the other side, Lin Tianfeng had already walked out of the courtyard and saw Lu Yi and her brother waiting by the side. Looking at the two of them, it seemed that they had been here for a long time. Before Lin Tianfeng spoke, Lu Yi had already stepped forward and asked with a concerned face, Master, is the pill done? Is there a cure for Jifei's illness? Hearing her concern for Lin Qifei, Lin Tianfeng was comforted and the coldness on his face gradually melted. He nodded. It's done. But as for the specific effects, we still need to see the follow-up. Although Duguyu looked very powerful, he didn't dare to boast before trying the pill. What if he was disappointed in the end? That's good, that's good. Louis Wearer patted her chest gently and looked relieved. Seeing this, Lin Tianfeng thought that he had been impatient with her for the past 2 days because he had only cared about Ji-Fei. He felt a little guilty and looked at Lu Yi. Your sister said that your men were beaten up yesterday. What happened? Since he was willing to ask, it meant that he was willing to use the Lin family's power to help. Louis nodded quickly and said, That's right. My 8 subordinates were all beaten unconscious yesterday, stuffed into boxes, and sent to my door. Furthermore, the tendons in their arms and legs had been severed. Brother-in-law, the weakest of my men, is a rank 8 warrior. But they were harmed just like that. You must uphold justice for me. Lin Tianfeng frowned. Then, do you know who the person behind the scenes is? Lu Yi was not afraid of Louis Wearer reprimanding him at this time. Since it had already come to this, he directly said, It's an outsider. Her name is Duguyu. It's her. She crippled 8 of my men. Brother-in-law, she dared to do this to me. She clearly doesn't put you and the Lin family in her eyes. You must not let her go. Chapter 1043. When Lu Yi said the word outsider, Lu Yuer knew something was wrong and secretly glared at him. No wonder he didn't want to say it before. It turned out to be such a disaster. Needless to say, it must be that he went to find trouble with the other party first, and finally forced the other party to kill him. That led to today's situation. She had warned him not to be so presumptuous, but he didn't change. Now, he even dared to hide it from her, and only told the truth in front of Lin Tianfeng. Louis Wearer scolded him in her heart, but in the end, he was her brother. Now, there was no other way. If she didn't help him, what else could she do? However, just as she was thinking about how to help Lu Yi, she heard a familiar name. Duguyu. Louis Wearer's eyes widened in shock, and she looked at Lu Yi in disbelief. Who did you just say? Lu Yi glanced at her. Duguyu. That's her name. I've already sent someone to check. Louis Wearer's heart trembled violently, and with the last glimmer of hope, she asked in a trembling voice, Then what does she look like? Please don't be. Please don't be. She looks ordinary, but she is a purple-haired and purple-eyed child, so it's easy to recognize her. As long as brother-in-law is willing to help, we'll find her soon. Louis Wearer's eyes darkened, her legs went soft, and she almost fell to the ground. It's actually that Duguyu. Lu Yi was talking well, but seeing her like this, he quickly went to help her. Sister, why are you? Louis Wearer pushed him away. Her face was filled with suppressed anger. Are you done? Lu Yi was even more confused. What's wrong? Wasn't she talking well just now? Why is she so angry in the blink of an eye? He quickly glanced at Lin Tianfeng, but saw that his expression was also very strange. Lu Yi realized that something seemed to be wrong, and his originally proud momentum was suppressed, and his heart was a little nervous. This? How? You want to find Duguyu? Lin Tianfeng suddenly asked. Lu Yi nodded subconsciously. That woman is very cunning. If you can help. Before he could finish, a crisp female voice suddenly sounded. There's no need to trouble Patriarch Lin with such a small matter. When Lu Yi heard this voice, he faintly felt that it was somewhat familiar and subconsciously looked up. A woman was slowly walking out of the courtyard. Her appearance was ordinary. Her eyes were like stars, and the corners of her mouth held a hint of a smile. Unexpectedly, she also had a noble charm. Beside her, there was a cute, purple-haired, purple-eyed child following closely behind her. After seeing the scene in front of him, Lu Yi suddenly widened his eyes in shock and raised his hand to point at the approaching woman. I'm right here. Why does young Master Lu have to waste time looking for me? Chu Lua walked over with Dugama Bao and stopped 5 steps away from them. Lu Yi almost couldn't believe his eyes. He couldn't help but shout in shock and anger. Why are you here? Why can't I be here? Chu Luiwe blinked. Could it be that this is also your territory? Lu Yi choked and hurriedly glanced at Lin Tianfeng. What nonsense are you talking about? Since it's not, then what does it have to do with you that I'm here? Chu Luiwei asked slowly. Lu Yi's eyes wandered back and forth between them. He couldn't help but say, You kill my people, and you still have the nerve to ask this? You're such a venomous woman. You're ruthless. Tell me, you're here to harm people, aren't you? Yes, that must be it. Lu Yi shouted unwaveringly. You're just a lowly outsider. You actually want to rebel in this cave heaven cliff? Chu Liwa looked at him in a seemingly smiling manner, as if she were looking at an idiot. Young Master Lu, why don't I understand what you're saying? I harmed your subordinates. Why would I harm them for no reason? Of course, it's because they went. Halfway through his words, Lu Yi realized that something was wrong and suddenly shut his mouth. If he really said it out loud, then he was the one who was in the wrong. Lin Tianfeng didn't like him very much. After knowing the ins and outs of the matter, he definitely wouldn't intervene in this matter. How would I know why you would do such a thing to them? It's just that you're too vicious. 8 people, and you didn't let any of them go. You young Master Lu, did I hear wrong? You mean I alone beat up 8 of them? And I even won? Chu Luiwei chuckled as if she had heard a joke. You think too highly of me, don't you? Lu Yi was half dead with anger. They're still in my residence. Do you dare to confront them? That's not necessary. Chu Luiwei's smile faded slightly. That scene must not be very good. I'm not interested. As soon as these words came out, Lin Tianfeng and Lu Yiwei also looked at Chu Luiwei. These words, you admit it? Lu Yi took a step forward. His face was full of anger. His face was red, and his eyes were burning with anger. Chu Luiwei tucked the stray hair on her cheek behind her ear and smiled. Since young Master Lu thinks that I did it, then I did it. But so what? So what? In Heavenly Cave Cliff, Lu Yi hadn't seen such an arrogant person for many years. He was so angry that he laughed. Dugu, don't tell me you don't know who is standing next to you now. You've done such a thing, and you want to pretend that nothing happened? Lin Tianfeng was the head of the Lin family, and also the cliff master of Heavenly Cave Cliff, and Lu Yiwei was his sister, and also the matriarch of the Lin family. She hurt her own people, and she dared to admit it in front of these people. She was really tired of living. However, Chu Luiwei didn't seem to care about his threat. She tilted her head, crossed her arms, touched her chin, and looked at Lin Tianfeng. She asked innocently, Head of the Lin family, are you going to punish me? Lin Tianfeng choked. At this moment, a light voice came from behind. Miss Dugu. Several people turned their heads in unison. Lin Qifei was standing in front of the courtyard door. He was tall and slender, and his eyes were distant. I don't know how to use this medicine. Can I trouble you to help me take a look? Digression. Are you demons? When I woke up, I moved up another place. I have to continue at 6 p.m. Don't ask. If you ask, you'll have to update. Chapter 1044. Lin Qifei's appearance broke the stalemate. Lin Tianfeng came back to his senses and looked at Chu Luiwei with a complicated expression. Miss Dugu, you go and help Qifei first. Chu Luiwei smiled faintly. Oh, then Master Lu, I will take care of things here. Miss Dugu, you don't have to worry. Lin Tianfeng's voice was not loud, but there was a trace of dignity in his tone that could not be disobeyed. Thank you very much, Master Lin. Upon hearing this, Chu Luiwei smiled and decisively turned around to leave. Lu Yi's heart skipped a beat. Is he not going to pursue Duguyu's fault? Brother-in-law, she injured 8 of my men. How can I just let it go like this? Lu Yi said as he was about to chase after her. Lin Tianfeng frowned. Lu Yiwei knew that something bad was going to happen. She quickly stretched out her hand and pulled Lu Yi back. She warned him, Lu Yi, Miss Dugu is Qifei's celestial physician. She has a heavy responsibility on her shoulders. You can't mess around anymore. Hearing this, Lu Yi finally understood why things were so wrong. He gasped and asked in disbelief. Sister, what did you say? Dugu, she is the celestial physician who took the initiative to treat Lin Qifei 2 days ago. Of course it's her. Isn't it clear enough? Lu Yi was stunned. How? How is this possible? When he met that woman 2 days ago, she was just an outsider with no identity or background. How long had it been? She had become Lin Chi-Fei's celestial physician. So she was the attendant who would go with the Lin family to the saint's birthday banquet. The sudden truth made Lu Yi's mind go blank. Although he was reckless and impudent, he was not completely brainless. If it was any other celestial physician, it would be fine, but now, she was Lin Chi-Fei's celestial physician, and from the looks of it, Lin Tianfeng seemed to trust and protect her. Even Lin Chi-Fei spoke up for her, which was a rare occurrence. Lu Yi knew very well that although he seemed to be lawless at Grotto Heaven Cliff, he was actually relying on the protection of the Lin family. Whether it was Lin Tianfeng or Lin Chi-Fei, they were definitely not people he should publicly offend. After Chu Lua left, Lin Tianfeng looked at the two of them. He quietly broke away from Lu Yuer's arm. Lu Yuer's heart sank. She hated herself for not asking clearly before. She had actually caused such a big commotion in front of Lin Tianfeng. You already knew about this? Lin Tianfeng asked calmly. I don't know. Lu Yuer immediately denied with tears in her eyes. I asked him before, but he refused to tell me. He said he had to see Master and ask for justice before he would tell me. Who knew? If she knew, why would she bring Lu Yi here? Lin Tianfeng turned a blind eye to her crying. Of course she didn't know. Otherwise, she wouldn't have done such a thing. Lin Tianfeng didn't pay much attention to Lu Yuer. Instead, he looked at Lu Yi. Lu Yi trembled. You just said that Dugu injured all 8 of your men? Lin Tianfeng asked. Lu Yi nervously swallowed and nodded. Lin Tianfeng stared at him. That's good. Tell me, how did you send those 8 men to deal with her? Thank you for your help, 4th princess. Walking into the room, Chu Luiwei directly thanked him. Lin Chi-Fei sat down, his expression still indifferent. It's just a small matter. No need to mention it. Chu Luiwei raised an eyebrow. She had been in the Lin mansion for 2 days, so she more or less understood Lin Chi-Fei's character and the Lin family situation. Lin Chi-Fei's words seemed simple, but it showed everyone that he was on her side. So, the balance in Lin Tianfeng's heart was naturally on her side. It would be difficult for Lu Yi to make trouble again. You save me a lot of trouble, Chu Luiwei said. Lin Chi-Fei smiled and took out the pill. Can we start now? Chu Yue's expression was slightly serious, and she nodded slightly. Under Chu Yue's gaze, Lin Chi-Fei took out the pill and swallowed it. The pill melted as soon as it entered his mouth, and in an instant, it turned into a hot stream of air and flowed down. In an instant, it filled his entire trachea and quickly spread to his organs. In a short while, Lin Chi-Fei's face and body had turned red. Dense stabbing pain came from all parts of his body. It was as if there were ants gnawing on his yuan meridian. The numbing pain was unending. Smack! Lin Chi-Fei directly swept the things on the table next to him to the ground. Draw the force out of the pill of origin and circulate it in a small cycle. Chu Luiwei shouted in a low voice. Lin Chi-Fei gritted his teeth, closed his eyes, and began to forcefully circulate the force in his body. An even more bone-piercing pain came from his body. Almost all of his yuan meridian was deposited with this strange substance, and at this moment, the pill's effect had turned into a hot stream of air that poured into his yuan meridian, almost completely occupying it. So, when he began to circulate the force in his body, it meant that he had to control the force to pass through this fiery hot stream of air. In this process, his force would inevitably come into contact with the already fragile yuan meridian. It was also because of this that he felt extreme pain. This feeling was as if countless sharp blades that had been roasted by fire were scraping off his yuan meridian. Soon, a trail of blood flowed out from the corner of Lin Chi-Fei's mouth. However, this trail of blood was black. Chu Yue's gaze focused. Lin Chi-Fei's illness had dragged on for too long. It was impossible for him to completely recover in one go. However, if he wanted to improve, he had to be bold and decisive. So, he had to suffer this pain. To Lin Chi-Fei, this was probably the most difficult time in his life. Every minute and every second was long and painful. His strength seemed to have been exhausted, and his entire body was in so much pain that it was almost numb. However, whenever his mind started to become muddled because of this, there would always be a clear and bright voice that would sound. The force is already halfway through. Fourth young master, continue. The 5 treasures have already passed, and it will be over soon. There is only one step left to complete a small cycle. This voice made him wake up time and time again. Even he himself did not know how he had endured it. In the middle, he vaguely felt as if there was a warm stream of energy pouring into his body, allowing him to recover much of his strength. He wanted to open his eyes, but it was too painful and too tiring. Moreover, he was constantly urged to continue. He knew who was speaking, so he gritted his teeth time and time again, struggling with all his might to endure it. After an unknown period of time, he finally could not hold it in any longer and suddenly spat out a mouthful of blood. Puff! Chu Luiyue immediately looked over. In the pool of black blood, there was a bead. This was it. Chu Luiyue waved his wrist, and a flame quickly flew out, instantly enveloping that bead. Chapter 1045. Bang! A crisp sound was heard. The bead was trying to escape, but it was stopped by Chu Luiyue's barrier. It fell to the ground again, mixed in with the messy bloodstains. If one did not look carefully, it would be hard to notice. Chu Luiyue waved his finger, and a blazing flame flew out instantly. It formed a fist-sized ball, completely trapping the bead inside. Then, the fireball floated up lightly and landed in Chu Luiyue's palm. Chu Luiyue carefully examined the bead inside. It was only the size of a soybean, and because it was covered in bloodstains, he could not see its exact appearance. However, Chu Luiyue could clearly feel that it contained a shocking amount of energy. And this thing was the main culprit that caused Lin Qifei's serious illness. Cough, cough, cough. Lin Qifei coughed violently. Chu Luiyue turned around to take a look. Fourth young master, how do you feel now? Lin Qifei coughed for a while before straightening his back. His face had turned from its initial blood-red color to extremely pale. Only the bloodstains at the corner of his mouth and chin made him look even more haggard. However, his eyes looked much more spirited than before. I'm fine. Lin Qifei waved his hand and looked at her palm as he spoke. When he saw the strange bead that was trapped by the fireball, his expression changed slightly. What is this? Fourth young master should be very familiar with this thing. After all, it has been in your body for decades. Chu Luiyue's words made Lin Qifei's eyes widen in shock. You mean, that's right. It's its existence that caused the strange changes in your Yuan meridian. Chu Luiyue glanced at the bead, narrowed his eyes dangerously, and laughed softly. This thing seems to be able to devour the Yuan meridian, causing a deficiency in one's qi and blood. Fortunately, fourth young master has a high-grade Daijing Yuan meridian, or else you might not even be able to hold on. Lin Qifei frowned. What is this? Chu Luiyue shook his head. I don't know. However, when he took her pulse earlier, he vaguely guessed that there was such a thing. At that time, I wanted to get rid of it directly, but it was very strange and agile. It created countless clones in your Yuan meridian, and I couldn't capture it immediately. So the most important thing in the pill you helped me refine just now is actually your own force. Lin Qifei asked. Chu Luiyue laughed and admitted frankly. Fourth young master is indeed smart. Actually, she had injected a stream of her flame into the pill. The greatest use of those medicinal herbs was to cushion the power of the flame she had left behind. If Lin Qifei's illness could be cured with just a level 8 pill, then the celestial physician of the Lin family would have done it long ago. How would it be her turn to do it? She had purposely asked Lin Tianfeng to get the herbs and let him guard her personally. In fact, it was all just a gimmick. No one knew that using the pill to save his life was a lie, but injecting the flame to force the bead out was real. This was also why she had been urging Lin Qifei to circulate his force. Only when both sides were pressuring each other could the thing have no way out. A look of understanding flashed across Lin Qifei's eyes, but at the same time, a trace of doubt appeared. Miss Dugu came to visit me earlier. Could it be that she already knew that she could use this method to help me? His voice was still a little weak, but this question was very important. Chu Luo blinked. Fourth young master, are you suspecting me? Of course not. Lin Qifei immediately denied. I'm just a little curious. How on earth was she so sure that she could do it without even taking his pulse? Chu Luo smiled, but didn't say anything. She couldn't possibly say that she was so confident because she knew that the power of the water bead in her body was too strong. Could she? Seeing her reaction, Lin Qifei immediately said, "Of course, if Miss Dugu can't say it, then I won't ask again." He could vaguely guess that there was an extraordinary power hidden in the body of the girl in front of him. It was normal that she didn't want to say it. Chu Luiwei rather admired Lin Qifei's tact. It was always easier to deal with smart people. Since this thing has been removed, then the rest is a small problem. There's still a part of it in your Yuan Meridian. We can slowly deal with it later. As long as you take good care of yourself, fourth young master will recover very quickly. Lin Qifei looked at the girl in front of him with a relaxed expression and listened to her speak slowly. For a moment, he felt a little dazed. He couldn't help but clench his hands. Just like that? Yes. Chu Luiwei sized up his expression. It was rare for him to show such a blank and weak expression, so much so that others could see through his thoughts. Although it sounds simple, this series of things still requires quite a bit of effort to carry out. However, I will be by your side for a period of time, so fourth young master doesn't need to worry. Just rest well. Lin Qifei nodded subconsciously. Thank you. Actually, I just feel that everything happened too suddenly. All these years, he had always thought that he didn't have long to live, so he was indifferent to everything. This time, when he returned from the outside world, he was already prepared to die. Who knew? He stared at the bead. Suddenly, he thought of something and asked in a soft voice. He asked softly, "So you're saying that this illness wasn't born with me?" Chu Luo pondered for a moment. "If I'm not wrong, this bead should have entered your body not long after you were born. It lay dormant for many years and unknowingly dragged you to your current state." However, she raised her eyes slightly and paused. This is definitely not an illness that came from the mother's womb. Lin Qifei lowered his head slightly. His pale and thin face looked especially haggard and lonely at this moment. After a long time, he finally let out a long sigh. So that's how it is. He had always thought that it was his fault that caused his mother's tragedy, but he didn't expect the incomparably heavy stone that had been pressing down on his heart for many years suddenly seemed to have been removed, allowing him to relax. This was premeditated by someone in the dark. But soon, his face darkened again. If it wasn't him, then, it must be someone else who had secretly planned all of this. Mother's death and his illness. I wonder if Miss Dugu can tell the origin of this bead? He raised his eyes and asked. Hearing this, Chu Luo looked at the bead again. At this time, the flames had already burned away the blood on it. This was a completely black bead, and there didn't seem to be anything special about it. Suddenly, Chu Luo's eyes focused. There seems to be a picture on it. No, this seems to be a totem. Digression. It's the end of the month. Don't forget to vote if you have tickets. Next update, about 7 o'clock. This month's star of the monthly votes. There are already 40 competitors for the monthly votes, but there are still no clear competitors in Book City. Are all the people in Book City so Buddhist? Please join the verification group as soon as possible if you want to get first place in the monthly votes or the recommendation votes. The first place will be sent out personally in February. The same goes for the comment star. The list will be announced in early September. Chapter 1046. Totem. Lin Qifei's expression froze. Chu Luo handed the bead over to him for him to see. On the gloomy black bead, there was indeed an extremely small pattern that reflected a faint glow. However, this pattern was very small. If one didn't look carefully, it was really difficult to notice. This is a totem, right? Chu Luiwei asked tentatively. She didn't have this feeling before, but ever since she came to the Divine Ruins world, Duga Mabao had told her that these numerous sects and clans all had their own totems. And she had also seen the Lin family's totem on the light screen at the border of the Divine Ruins world. So the moment she saw this pattern, she had this guess. It was an indescribable intuition. That's right. This is indeed the totem of a certain clan. Lin Qifei nodded affirmatively. It's just that I can't tell which clan it is for the time being. The Divine Ruins world was vast, and there were countless clans and sections. It was impossible to recognize the totems of each clan. Although he was the fourth young master of the Lin family and had a noble status in Heavenly Cave Cliff, it was limited to Heavenly Cave Cliff. After going out, there would be many terrifying existences like Heavenly Cave Cliff, or even stronger than them. It was really difficult to find out the origin of this totem in a short time. Chu Luiwei pondered for a moment. I wonder if Patriarch Lin could deny it after seeing it. He was experienced and knowledgeable, so he might know a thing or two. Lin Qifei suddenly said, Miss Dugu, please don't keep this bead a secret for the time being. Chu Luiwei looked at him with slight surprise. When she saw his sincere and pleading expression, her heart skipped a beat. She didn't ask any more questions and nodded. Okay. It seemed that Lin Qifei didn't even trust Lin Tianfeng, or rather, he was certain that there was something wrong with the people around Lin Tianfeng. Moreover, although this bead was small, once the investigation began and old accounts were dug up, who knew how many people in the Lin family would be implicated? It was normal for Lin Qifei to be so cautious. Then, I'll keep this thing with me for now, Chu Luiwei asked. Lin Qifei nodded in agreement. Sorry to trouble you, Miss Dugu. Chu Luiwei shook his head. It's just a small matter. After experiencing all kinds of trouble caused by the two Tian baby, it was really easy to deal with this kind of little thing. Lin Qifei's lips moved as if he wanted to say something. There was a totem on the bead, and it was very likely that it would bring about unknown trouble. Most people would try their best to avoid getting involved with these people. Who would have thought that she would actually be willing to help like this? Then that's all for today. Have a good rest, fourth young master. Debeo, and I will take our leave first. With that, Chu Luiwei bowed and left with Debeo. Wait. Seeing that the two of them were about to leave, Lin Qifei suddenly shouted. Chu Luiwei turned around curiously. Fourth young master, is there anything else? Lin Qifei paused. If nothing unexpected happens, that first-class teleportation array will be repaired tomorrow. Therefore, our departure time should be tomorrow. Chu Luiwei was delighted. That's great. She was worried that it would keep delaying. If they could go there earlier, they should still be able to make it in time. Lin Qifei looked at the woman in front of him. When she heard the news, her eyebrows and eyes became lively. There seemed to be waves of light surging in her jade-like pupils, and also like stars twinkling. The curvature of his lips was definitely not fake. She should want to go there earlier, right? Lin Qifei's lips also curved slightly, revealing a very faint smile. Originally, he didn't care about these things, but it would be good if he could help her a little. Then we'll go back and pack first. Chu Luiwei smiled and said goodbye. Lin Qifei nodded. Chu Luiwei then left with Debeo. After the two of them disappeared from sight, Lin Qifei slowly sat back in his chair. He closed his eyes and adjusted his breathing. After he recovered some strength, he stood up and said, Water, prepare some water. I'll take a bath and change clothes. The smell of blood on his body was already stinging his temples faintly. The servant waiting outside the door heard and hurried in. When he saw Lin Qifei's face and body covered in messy blood, he was shocked. Young master, it's fine. Just go and prepare. Lin Qifei waved his hand. The servant saw that although he was in a sorry state, his spirit seemed to be much stronger than before. His previous decadence was swept away. He was also delighted and hurriedly responded. Yes. The servant's movements were very nimble, and it didn't take long for everything to be ready. Young master, please. Lin Qifei walked into the inner room. The servant followed beside him and couldn't help but say, Young master, Your body, has it recovered? Lin Qifei paused for a moment. It's better than before. The servant exclaimed. That's great. I didn't expect Miss Dugu to be so amazing. Although her current level was not as high as the 9th grade celestial doctor of the Lin family, she was the most capable person to be able to cure the young master's illness. I didn't expect an outsider to be so outstanding. Lin Qifei heard this and smiled faintly. There's no difference between the inner and outer worlds. In the end, it depends on the person. Even if she was unknown now, in time, she would definitely make a name for herself in the world of divine ruins. Young master is right. The servant couldn't help but say as he waited on Lin Qifei. Actually, there's one thing I don't understand. Young master, this Miss Dugu is already so outstanding. Why would she still go and look for that heartless man? Wouldn't she be making herself suffer for nothing? Lin Qifei thought back to her bright smile and fell into deep thought. Probably. After all, a night together as husband and wife means endless devotion for the rest of your life. Digression. Add more tomorrow. Start waving your banknotes. Chapter 1047. On this side, Chu Luiyue solved Lin Qifei's problem and went back with Debao to wait for the arrival of the next day. However, Lu Yi on the other side was not so relaxed. Lin Tianfeng made it clear that he was on Lin Qifei's side. As long as Chu Luiyue could cure Lin Qifei's illness, then no matter what she did, he would try his best to protect her. What's more, in the end, this matter was provoked by Lu Yi first. If he didn't make the first move, Chu Luiyue wouldn't have fought back like this. Therefore, Lu Yi was in a disadvantageous position. After Lin Tianfeng expressed that he would not help, he sternly warned him and ordered him to never do anything wrong in the future. He even reprimanded Lu Yue. Such a series of actions completely suppressed the brother and sister's arrogance. Lu Yi originally wanted to argue a few more words, but he was forcibly pulled away by Lu Yue. Lu Yue didn't dare to let Lu Yi stay in the Lin family and simply went back with him. When she arrived at the Lu family, as soon as she entered the door, she ordered all the servants to leave. After everyone left, Lu Yue stretched out her hand and fiercely poked Lu Yi's forehead. Do you have a brain? Lu Yi's forehead was scratched by her sharp nails, and his anger and grievance erupted in an instant. Sister, how can you treat me like this? Am I still your brother? It's because you're my brother that I scolded you like this. If someone else dared to do this, I would have sent someone to deal with it in private. Lu Yue looked at him with a look of disappointment. Do you know how much trouble you'll bring us by doing this today? What I asked you before, who was the person who injured your men, you refused to tell me. I didn't expect it to be Dugu Yu. What were you thinking? Don't you know that she just became Lin Qifei's celestial physician 2 days ago? How would I know this? Lu Yi also felt wronged and shouted. Who would have thought that such a lowly outsider would have such great means? Lin Tianfeng and his son were really stupid. Did they really think that Dugu Yu could cure Lin Qifei's illness? That thing is in his body, Lu Yue shouted in shock. Shut up. Looking at Lu Yue's angry face, Lu Yi realized that he had said something wrong, and a trace of timidity and guilt appeared in his heart. If you dare to say such things again, you dash. Lu Yue raised her hand and wanted to slap him. She glared at him angrily for a while, but in the end, she couldn't bring herself to do it. She angrily sat down on the chair and slammed her hand on the table. Why do I have such a disappointing brother like you? It was one thing for him to cause trouble on a normal day, but now he had actually caused trouble to this extent. Do you think it was easy for me to reach my current position in the Lin family? He scratched his head and stepped forward. Sis, don't be angry. You can't blame me for this, can you? It's all because of that Dugu Yu. She's too strange. Not only did she hurt my people, but she also took away my opportunity to go there. Sis, you have to avenge me. Speaking of this, Lu Yue's heart was filled with resentment. She finally managed to persuade Lin Tianfeng to take Lu Yi with them, but who would have thought that they would be replaced before they left? That Yu does have some skills. She clenched her hands and muttered in a low voice. A trace of hatred flashed across her eyes. That's right. Sis, think about it. She's an outsider with a child. How did she manage to take on 8 of my subordinates by herself? Those people's strength is not weak. Louis Ware rolled her eyes. Since she can break in from the outside, she must be at least a demigod. Isn't it easy for her to beat up your men? He shook his head. Sis, do you think I didn't think of this? Because of this, when I sent people over, I had already selected the strongest few. He stretched out his finger. Among the 8 people, half of them are rank 9 martial artists, and 2 of them are peak rank 9. As for the rest, the weakest is a rank 8 martial artist. With such a lineup, is it not enough to deal with a fledgling demigod? Louis Ware's expression changed slightly when she heard this. Besides, even if they're not a match for a demigod together, their strength should not be too far apart. How could they be beaten up like that? All 8 of them were beaten half to death. The tendons in their hands and feet were torn, and they were completely crippled. To be able to do such a thing, it was enough to show that Yu was vicious and merciless. What you said is not without reason. Louis Ware fell into deep thought. Besides, she's still a rank 7. No, she should be a rank 8 celestial physician now. It could be seen that Yu's talent in celestial physician was extremely high. Generally speaking, people with talent in this area would usually focus on research, and very few people would be distracted by martial artist cultivation. That Yu, I wonder how old she is. If she is really in her early 20s like she looks, and she's an outsider, then her talent and potential are really, Louis Ware muttered, and her heart was shocked. At first, she did not feel it, but now, the more she thought about it, the more she felt that this Yu was not simple. Sis, you must help me vent this anger. He pleaded. Louis Ware waved her hand in annoyance. Not now. Lin Tianfeng is watching closely, and besides, they are leaving tomorrow. Besides, if something really happened to Yu at this time, then the first to be suspected would be them. Let's put this matter aside for now. We will see the situation tomorrow. He wanted to say something, but hesitated, and could only reluctantly agree. A look of unwillingness flashed in his eyes. Night. The bright moon hung high in the sky, and a few stars shone in the sky. In the room, Chu Louis sat cross-legged cultivating. These 2 days, she had consumed a lot of her force, and if not for the support of the water droplet in her dantian, she might not have been able to hold on after refining the elixir. She closed her eyes, and her fair and charming face, under the reflection of the moonlight, looked even more translucent like jade. As she breathed evenly, the force of heaven and earth around her surged like a tide, constantly entering her body. After breaking through to the 7th rank, because she had passed the spirit-gazing stage and recovered the Tianjing Yuan Meridian, the speed of cultivation was much faster than before. After a large cycle of force, Chu Yu's breath finally recovered. She gently exhaled and immediately raised her right hand. A silver star suddenly appeared on her index finger. Then, the 2nd star. The 3rd star. After a while, one of Chu Yu's hands lit up with 5 stars, bright and resplendent. Then, a few streams of light flew out, connecting the 5 stars, and a faint glow enveloped her entire palm. At this moment, a strange sound came from outside the window. A biting, cold, murderous intent suddenly broke through the air. Chu Louis suddenly opened her eyes. Chapter 1048. The next moment, with a twist of her wrist, she pushed out a palm. The glowing silver palm print seemed slow, but in fact, it was moving forward quickly. Perhaps because the pressure was too strong, a long black space crack appeared behind it. Bang! The sound of something shattering could be heard. Light flashed on the palm print. The light dimmed a lot in an instant, but that sneak attack was intercepted in the end. A few pieces of broken icicles fell to the ground. Chu Louis frowned and took a look. A long figure was reflected on the window. Her pupils shrank slightly. This aura, you do have some skills. A low and cold voice came. Lu Yi. Chu Luiyue almost immediately guessed the identity of the person who came. You're smart. In that case, we don't have to hide anymore. Lu Yi sneered and suddenly waved his arm. Whoosh! His strength was so strong that it directly tore apart the enchantment set up by Chu Luiyue. He forced his way in through the window. Chu Luiyue immediately jumped up from the bed. What are you doing here? Chu Luiyue shook her wrist and held the long yuan sword in her hand. Why are you so nervous? Lu Yi raised his eyebrows and sneered. He glanced at Chu Luiyue and said with disdain, Aren't you very powerful? Why are you scared? Chu Luiyue's red lips curled slightly. She chuckled, but her eyes were cold. Yes, I'm very scared. If I accidentally crippled the brother of the Lin family's matriarch, that would be really bad. Lu Yi's face suddenly turned ugly, arrogant. However, in his heart, there was indeed some fear. Since the woman in front of him could take care of those 8 people, it proved that she was indeed not weak. Could it be that she had completely stepped into the God realm? Just as this thought appeared in his mind, Lu Yi immediately rejected it. That was impossible. If she had really reached such a level, then when she met him that day, she would not have chosen to escape directly. Moreover, it seemed that he had used some kind of origin device to teleport away. This didn't seem like something that a person of that level could do. I think you're the arrogant one, right? Chu Luiyue frowned. Now that I'm 4th young Master Lin's celestial physician, I'll be accompanying him soon. If something were to happen to me today, who do you think the Lin family would go after? Lu Yi certainly knew that if the matter was exposed, he and Lu Yiwei would not be able to escape suspicion. But so what? As long as they did it in secret, even if Lin Tianfeng was suspicious of them, he wouldn't be able to convict them. You're right. Lu Yi's eyes flashed with a murderous aura. So for safety's sake, from today on, you'd better shut your mouth forever. As he spoke, he raised the triangular awl in his hand and stabbed it towards Chu Luiyue. Chu Luiyue took a step back and raised his sword to block. Clang! Both sides clashed. Chu Luiyue's hand suddenly went numb. After all, the opponent was a demigod powerhouse, several levels higher than her. She had no chance of winning in a head-on fight. Just as Chu Luiyue's mind was racing, Lu Yi, who was opposite her, was shocked. You're not a god-level powerhouse. This wasn't a question, but a statement. In the world of divine ruins, almost all cultivators would use origin devices to cover their aura and hide their true strength. Ordinary people generally couldn't see anything, but as long as they fought, the cultivator's true strength would be revealed and couldn't be concealed. This was Lu Yi's first time fighting with Chu Luiyue, so he immediately realized that something was wrong. Chu Luiyue raised his arm and flung his triangular all away. At the same time, a red flame quickly spread along the Dragon Abyss sword. It flew towards Lu Yi at lightning speed. Sensing a scorching aura coming towards him, Lu Yi knew that something was wrong. Taking a closer look, it was actually an abnormally hot red flame. He keenly felt that the pressure on the flame was extremely powerful and couldn't be underestimated. Then, he took a step back without thinking and poured his force into the triangular awl. Triple icicle. Several inch-long, thumb-thick icicles condensed and flew out. Both sides faced the attack head-on. Boom! The red flame that was originally only the size of a palm suddenly burned violently. It transformed into a barrier and blocked in front of Chu Luiyue. The closer the icicles were, the slower they became. In the end, they actually began to silently melt. Lu Yi was shocked. This triple icicle was an extremely handy origin device for him. It was extremely powerful and almost invincible. However, when encountering this red flame, it actually had no power to resist. At this moment, Chu Luiyue quickly swung his sword. A black light blade flew out. In the blink of an eye, it flew in front of Lu Yi. Lu Yi was extremely shocked and furious as he crazily circulated his force. Chi! Several icicles flew out again. This time, the number was several times more than before. In the blink of an eye, Chu Luiyue's figure was shrouded. The black light blade blocked most of the attacks, but there were still a few that narrowly dodged and went straight for Chu Luiwei. Chu Luiwei held the long yuan sword tightly and was about to move when she found that the space around her suddenly became sticky and heavy. Her body seemed to be pressed down by something, and every movement was extremely difficult. This was Lu Yi using his divine power. Although I haven't completely stepped into the God realm, it's enough to deal with you. Seeing that Chu Luiwei was forcibly suppressed, the nervousness in Lu Yi's heart finally dissipated. He couldn't help but sneer. Don't worry, my icicles are bone-piercing cold. As long as one pierces your body, it can quickly freeze your entire body. Not long after, you can what? Lu Yi's smug smile had just appeared when he saw the icicles hit Chu Luiwei's body. Not only did they not pierce her flesh, but they all shattered as if they were repelled by some force. He stared in disbelief and saw that Chu Luiwei's body was covered with a layer of pale golden armor, and those icicles that he had shot out earlier had been shattered by the impact of the collision. This armor, he had the Lin family behind him, so he had seen many good things. So at this time, he recognized at a glance that this armor was definitely not an ordinary item. To be able to block his attack so easily, you have a lot of treasures on you. He was so angry that he laughed, and there was a hint of greed in his eyes. As long as he got rid of her, these things would all be his. Just as he was about to attack again, the woman in front of him suddenly spoke. Yi, have you never thought that since I'm not a God Realm master, how did your subordinates fall to such a state? Yi was stunned. Chu Luiwei showed a meaningful smile and looked behind him. Sorry to trouble you. Chapter 1049. Yi thought to himself, oh no. He immediately turned around and looked behind him. However, before he could see the scene in front of him clearly, he suddenly felt a sharp pain in his head. Bang! His vision turned black, and he fell to the ground with a muffled sound. The room returned to its original calm. If it weren't for Yi lying on the ground with a bloody hole in his head, it would have looked like nothing had happened. Chu Luiwei lowered her gaze slightly, glanced at him coldly, and then gave him a thumbs up in admiration. Debeo, you're amazing. On the opposite side, Dugama Bao put down a chair expressionlessly. The chair was taller than him. If they hadn't seen it with their own eyes, no one would have believed that such a soft and cute child could pick up a chair and defeat a demigod powerhouse. He's just a demigod who used various methods to advance. His real combat power is actually similar to that of an ordinary peak 9th grade martial artist. Duga Mabao commented indifferently. This was also why Chu Luiwei could barely exchange one or two blows with him just now. Chu Luiwei smiled and said, that's true. You've already dealt with the previous 8 people. What's one more? Recalling the scene at that time, Chu Luiwei was still full of shock. At that time, she and Debeo were blocked by those people in a narrow and dark alley. They were attacked from the front and back, and the opponent's realm was all higher than hers. When the situation was about to get out of hand, Debeo stood up. From the beginning to the end, Chu Luiwei didn't even move a finger. It wasn't that she didn't dare, but she didn't have time. By the time she realized what had happened, Debeo had already taken care of the last person. If she had to say what she did putting people in a boxes count? This was because Debeo thought it was dirty, so he gave this dispensable task to Chu Luiwei. From the beginning to the end, he only used a brick. Thinking of this, Chu Luiwei's expression became a little complicated. Last time it was a brick. This time it's a chair. Debeo, why don't I buy you a good yuan instrument? Duga Mabao glanced at her coldly and said, don't worry. I'm afraid I'll lose face if I use an origin tool to deal with these people. Chu Luiwei. Pretend I didn't ask. She seemed to be overthinking things when talking to a terrifying existence who had condensed a divine body. However, speaking of which, when you concealed your aura at the beginning, I thought it was inconvenient for you to make a move. It's not convenient for me to attack, so I didn't use my godly power. Duga Mabao said calmly. This divine body is enough to deal with these small problems. Chu Yue's mouth twitched. Small problem. She started to regret talking to Duga Mabao about this. Every time she mentioned these things, her self-esteem and confidence would be crazily attacked. Cough. Chu Liyue coughed and looked at the unconscious Lu Yi on the ground. What should we do with him? It felt like a loss to send him back just like that. Duga Mabao said casually. Just destroy his primordial core. Chu Yue's eyes twitched. Really? She wasn't being soft-hearted, but if he woke up in the future and found that he had become a cripple, he would definitely push all the blame onto her. Although he wasn't a threat, his sister, Lu Yue, wasn't easy to deal with. Even if she could rely on treating Lin Qifei to win a certain amount of bargaining chips, she was still alone and helpless here. She wasn't afraid of trouble, but she felt that there might be some unnecessary trouble when the time came. Duga Mabao frowned. This Lu Yi was presumptuous and arrogant, and he had attacked her repeatedly. She didn't want to cripple him? Then what do you want? Chu Liyue broke into a bright smile and chuckled. There are many ways to punish a person. Why do you have to be so obvious? As she spoke, she took out a pill and forced it down his throat. What's that? Duga Mabao narrowed his eyes. Soul-devouring pill. Chu Liyue clapped her hands. After using it, he will gradually lose all of his memories within a year. The first thing he will forget is what happened tonight. When he wakes up tomorrow, he won't be able to remember even if he wants to identify us. While his memories are in chaos, he will gradually lose his consciousness and eventually become a cripple without reason and emotions. Duga Mabao's demonic purple eyes seemed to flicker. His eyebrows relaxed, revealing a touch of satisfaction. That's more like it. Even if they were in a different body, he didn't want her to become soft-hearted because of it. Okay, now we just need to send him back. Chu Liyue was about to pull Lu Yi up and send him away, but suddenly stopped. She seemed to be thinking about something. Her expression was blank, and there seemed to be a dark tide surging in the depths of her black, jade-like eyes. Duga Mabao felt that something was wrong and immediately asked, "What's wrong?" Chu Liyue didn't respond. Duga Mabao called her again. Yue? This time, Chu Liyue finally came back to her senses. She slowly turned her head, her movements a little stiff, and the expression on her face was very strange. Debeo. She spoke softly. Although she was talking to Duga Mabao, her eyes were not focused, as if she was looking through the void. Duga Mabao's heart skipped a beat when he saw her like this. What's wrong? Chu Liyue was silent for a while before she spoke softly, word by word. From my death in my previous life to my rebirth in this life, it seems it has been exactly 1 year. Digression, it's the last day, please vote. Continue at 6 p.m., 200 monthly votes, plus one more update. Chapter 1050. Duga Mabao's eyes flickered slightly. It's just a coincidence. Really? Chu Liyue asked skeptically. At that time, your physical body was dead, and your physical body was completely destroyed. Only a wisp of your soul was left, which was barely reborn into this body. What does that have to do with the soul-devouring pill? Duga Mabao said lightly. Chu Liyue nodded thoughtfully. That's true, but, however, she still felt that there was something wrong with this matter. At that time, after she was reborn, she had even specifically asked about the time. That day was indeed exactly 1 year after her death. If it was a coincidence, was there really no deeper meaning? Let's send him back first, in case anything happens. Duga Mabao urged calmly. Chu Liyue glanced at Duga Mabao in front of her. She didn't know if he didn't want to talk about it with her, or if he was really uninterested, but she didn't ask further. Maybe she was thinking too much. She nodded and put away her doubts. She pulled Lu Yi up from the ground. Let's go. The night passed silently. Early the next morning, Chu Liyue brought Duga Mabao to the Lin family. When the guards saw the two of them, they bowed from afar, their faces full of smiles. Miss Dugu, you're finally here. Master and fourth young master are waiting for you. Seeing their reaction, Chu Liyue understood that the news of Lin Qifei's recovery should have spread. Sure enough, after walking for a short while, she saw Lin Tianfeng, who had heard the news and came out to greet her. Seeing Chu Luiyue, Lin Tianfeng's face instantly stretched into a smile. Miss Dugu. Chu Luiyue smiled and greeted him. Master Lin, I'm not late, am I? You're not late at all. Lin Tianfeng was all smiles. Please come in. Ji Fei is packing his things, so he didn't come. Miss Dugu, please don't blame him. Chu Luiyue raised his eyebrows slightly. How could this be? Although she knew that Lin Tianfeng favored Lin Qifei, she didn't expect it to be to this extent. She hadn't completely cured Lin Qifei yet. Lin Tianfeng's attitude towards her was much better than before. If he really waited for Lin Qifei to recover, he wouldn't know how to thank him. Chu Luiyue asked as he followed Lin Tianfeng inside. Is fourth young master feeling better today? Much better, much better. Lin Tianfeng hurriedly nodded, his eyes filled with undisguised excitement and relief. Miss Dugu is indeed amazing. This time, it's all thanks to you. Originally, he wanted to check on Lin Qifei last night, but the servant said that he had already taken off his clothes, so he didn't disturb him. But when he saw Lin Qifei this morning, he immediately felt the difference. Lin Qifei's body was indeed much better. This allowed him to finally relax his heart that had been hanging in the air all this time. When he saw Chu Luiyue again, his reaction was naturally different. Chu Luiyue chuckled. It's mainly because fourth young master has a good foundation and good luck. No matter what, I have to thank Miss Dugu properly this time. Lin Tianfeng sighed with emotion. As they spoke, the two had already arrived at Lin Qifei's residence. The servant was already at the door to welcome them. As soon as he walked in, Chu Luiyue saw Lin Qifei. Today, he wore a bamboo green brocade robe with a white jade belt around his waist. It was clearly an extremely simple outfit, but it had a clear and bright charm. Her face, which had always been pale, had a hint of color. Coupled with her eyes that seemed to have become clearer, she looked completely different from before. Without the existence of the strange bead, and the knot in his heart had been untied, he naturally recovered very quickly. Seeing him like this, Chu Luiyue was inwardly surprised. It could only be said that Lin Qifei's recovery ability was indeed stronger than she had expected. Without any obstacles, this kind of person's future path was bound to be very broad and bright. It was no wonder that Lin Tianfeng was so happy today. This should be the scene he wanted to see the most in the past few decades, right? It seems that fourth young master has really recovered. Chu Luiyue smiled as he walked forward. The indifference between Lin Qifei's eyebrows melted a lot. Everything depends on Miss Dugu. Last night was the most peaceful sleep I've had in years. I wonder, did Miss Dugu sleep well? Chu Luiyue's heart skipped a beat, and her smile deepened. Thank you for your concern, fourth young master. Debeo and I also slept very well. Lin Qifei nodded. That's good. Then, Chu Luiyue took the opportunity to take his pulse. Fourth young master's body has been damaged for several years. If you want to fully recover, you'll need to carefully rest for a period of time. Lin Qifei smiled. You've already endured so many years. Wells can't wait. Hearing the two's conversation, Lin Tianfeng confirmed that Lin Qifei's body really did have a chance to recover. He turned slightly and took a deep breath, suppressing the tears in his eyes. Patriarch, fourth young master, everyone is already waiting in the front hall. The manservant came forward to report. It's time to go. Only then did Lin Tianfeng turn around and urge the two with a smile. Look at me, I almost forgot about this. Jifei, Miss Dugu, let's go. The few of them went straight to the front hall. When they arrived, there was indeed a group of people gathered. Chu Luiyue quickly glanced around. The three old men had obscure auras. They were obviously the elders chosen by the Lin family to go with them. Next to them stood three young girls. At a glance, all of them were beautiful and graceful. Moreover, the auras around the three of them were not weak either. It was obvious that they were carefully selected beauties, and they were excellent in all aspects. Chu Luiyue's gaze suddenly became a little strange. It seemed that these three were the candidates chosen by Heavenly Cave Cliff to participate in the Holy Sun's concubine selection. Seeing Lin Tianfeng and the others arrive, The people in the front hall immediately looked over and bowed in unison. Greetings, Patriarch. Lin Tianfeng raised his hand and smiled brightly. We're about to set off, so there's no need to be so formal. Seeing that he was so happy, the few of them looked at each other, and then at Lin Qifei, who followed behind him. They all understood. Seeing that Patriarch is so happy, it seems that fourth young master's body has almost recovered. While the elders laughed and asked, "It's all thanks to Miss Dugu." Lin Tianfeng laughed heartily. Hearing his affirmative answer, everyone in the room instantly looked at Chu Luiyue. This woman looked ordinary, and they heard that she was an outsider. Could she really be that powerful? Chu Luiyue seemed to be in a daze. Lin Qifei called out to her gently, Miss Dugu, what are you thinking about?" Chu Luiyue came back to her senses and realized that everyone was looking at her. She smiled. "Nothing, I was just thinking that these girls are really very beautiful. His Highness, the Holy Sun, will like them very much when he sees them, right?" Chapter 10:51. For some reason, Lin Qifei felt that there was something wrong with Chu Luiyue's tone, but he couldn't put his finger on it. On the other hand, the women looked delighted when they heard this. Although they knew that their chances of being selected were slim, who didn't like to hear beautiful words? Besides, no one could be certain about this kind of thing. If they were lucky, they would soar to the sky. "Thank you, Miss Dugu, for your kind words. However, there are many tribes participating in the Holy Sun's birthday banquet this time. Each tribe has selected the most outstanding women of the right age, so the competition is fierce. We still don't know what the outcome will be." Lin Tianfeng chuckled. In fact, he didn't have much hope at all. Among the many tribes, Heavenly Cave Cliff was considered to be at the bottom. Whether it was territory, resources, or other aspects, they couldn't compare to the other tribes. The three women today were carefully selected by them with great difficulty. At first glance, they might look good, but compared to the noble ladies carefully trained by the larger tribes, they were still incomparable. When the women heard this, they hurriedly restrained their expressions. Miss Dugu is young and came from outside the realm. I didn't expect that she could really cure the fourth young master's illness. I heard that Miss Dugu is now an 8th grade celestial physician. An old man standing at the back suddenly spoke. His voice was solemn and carried an undisguised arrogance. Chu Luiyue looked in the direction of the voice. The old man's cheeks were thin and his hair was white. However, his eyes flashed with a shrewd and cold light. Ever since she and Lin Qifei came in, he didn't smile much. Moreover, he seemed to have a hidden hostility towards her. Chu Luiyue smiled as if she didn't notice anything amiss. She smiled and said, "I did break through to the 8th grade celestial physician 2 days ago. Senior, this is Elder Lu Rahai." Lin Qifei said. "He is also the Lin family's current celestial physician, the Great Elder." Chu Luiyue immediately understood. So this is the celestial physician with the highest rank in the Lin family? According to Lin Tianfeng, it seemed that he was already peak rank 9. After knowing the other party's identity, Chu Luiyue immediately understood why the other party didn't like him. He was powerful and had a high status in the Lin clan. Lin Qifei's illness, which had not been cured for many years, was cured as soon as she came. Wasn't this a slap to his face? It was no wonder that he treated her like this. Chu Luiyue bowed. "Junior Gu greets Senior Lu Rahai." Lu Rahai directly said, "There's no need for such formalities. Perhaps in the future, this old man will have many questions to consult Miss Dugu." These words sounded a little strange, but Chu Luiyue didn't care and just smiled. Elder Lin Mo, who had been talking to Lin Tianfeng at the beginning, came out to smooth things over. Since everyone is here, then, Patriarch, let's go, shall we?" Lin Tianfeng nodded. But then Lu Rahai suddenly said, "Of course we're going, but what's with that child?" Chu Luiyue's heart skipped a beat. Sure enough, she saw him staring coldly at Dugu Ma Bao. She pulled Dugu Ma Bao behind her and smiled politely. "Debeo is just a child, and he's always been obedient. He won't cause any trouble." "Oh, are you sure?" Lu Rahai lightly snorted. You have to know how precious the quota to go to that place is. Since you cured fourth young master and will be accompanying him for a period of time, there's nothing wrong with giving you a quota. But this child, Elder Lu, according to this child's age, he won't take up a quota, Lin Tianfeng reminded. This old man is naturally aware of this. But Patriarch, don't forget that His Highness, the Holy Sun, is holding a birthday banquet this time. At the same time, there will be a consort selection. Bringing a child to such an occasion. Isn't it a little inappropriate? Chu Luiyue smiled faintly, but there was no smile in her eyes. Then according to what you're saying, do you want me to leave DeBeo alone? Lu Rahai stroked his beard. That's not impossible. Anyway, the Lin family still has the mistress, and there are many people in the family who can take care of the child. They won't treat him badly. This is convenient for everyone, isn't it? Chu Luiyue sneered in her heart. You want to take DeBeo hostage? You got a pretty good plan. He was afraid that if he angered DeBeo, the ones who would suffer would be the others. Chu Luiyue couldn't be bothered to talk nonsense with him. She looked directly at Lin Tianfeng and asked with a faint smile, Patriarch Lin, what do you think? Lin Tianfeng shook his head almost without hesitation. No need. This child is still young. How can he be separated from his mother? With so many of us here, there won't be any problems. Dugiyu came to the Divine Ruins world to take the child to find her husband. If they separated the mother and son, it would be too unkind. Although he was a little worried, Dugiyu cured Ji Fei's illness, and he was willing to take responsibility. Patriarch, Lu Rahai wanted to say something, but Lin Tianfeng stopped him with a look. All right, it's getting late. Let's set off as soon as possible. After he finished speaking, Lin Tianfeng directly left. Lu Rahai's face was a little ugly, but he couldn't argue anymore. He frowned and looked at Chu Luiyue and Duga Ma Bao, and then followed. Chu Luiyue touched Duga Ma Bao's head. Don't worry, I won't leave you no matter where we go. Duga Ma Bao's eyes twitched fiercely, but when he heard this, he resisted the urge to explode. The group didn't say anything else and went straight to the teleportation array. Digression. Around 7:30 p.m., star the recommendation tickets and monthly votes. Please come and verify the news as soon as possible. Chapter 1052. Perhaps it was because Chu Yuyue's current appearance was too ordinary, and she was an outstanding celestial physician. Or perhaps it was because Duga Ma Bao was too soft and cute, causing the women's maternal love to overflow. In short, along the way, their attitude towards Chu Luiyue and Duga Ma Bao was extremely good. Several people surrounded the two and asked a lot of questions. Obviously, they were very interested in the two of them. Chu Luiyue was fine and chatted with them from time to time. Duga Ma Bao's little face was cold, and his whole body exuded a cold air that kept people away. Unfortunately, with his current cute appearance and body, it was really not convincing. If not for Chu Yuyue's strict defense, Duga Ma Bao's noble face would have been touched. In this way, after an extremely difficult period of time, they finally arrived at the place. Chu Luiyue raised her eyes and looked forward. This was a huge square. In the middle of the square, there was a circular black teleportation array. Some kind of pattern was engraved on it. That was the Lin family's totem. There are not many people around, but there were still several teams of guards guarding it. The standard was very high, and the atmosphere was solemn. After arriving here, everyone seemed to have become serious. There was a vague sense of awe. Lin Tianfeng looked around and frowned. Where's Yue? According to the rules, Lu Yue should have been waiting here early and sent them off. But at this time, everyone else was here, but Lu Yue was nowhere to be seen. The man in the lead stepped forward and said respectfully, Master, madam, she just left temporarily because of some special matters. What matter was more important than sending them to that place? Lin Tianfeng didn't need to think to know what was going on, and his face turned cold. Something happened to the Lu family again. The man hesitated for a moment and lowered his voice. I heard that there's something wrong with young Master Lu's body. He's usually the most arrogant. What problem can he have? Not only was Lu Yi insensible, but even Lu Yu was also fooling around. For the sake of her spoiled little brother, she even disregarded her duty as the Lin family's matriarch. Forget it. It wouldn't be too late to settle the score after they returned. As Lin Tianfeng spoke, he stepped onto the transmission array. Lin Shifei, elder Lin Mo, and the others followed closely behind. Then there were a few young girls. Finally, it was Chu Luiwei and Dugamabao. This teleportation array was actually not very big. It seemed that only about 100 people could pass through at a time, but its aura was extraordinary. Just as Chu Luiwei was about to step forward, the women who had just stepped forward suddenly cried out in pain. One of them didn't pay attention and directly knelt on the ground. Her knee hit the ground hard, making a muffled sound. She was in so much pain that her face turned pale. Chu Luiwei narrowed his eyes slightly. This was obviously not a reaction that would be caused by a simple knock. It seemed like the other end of this teleportation array is connected to the other side. The pressure is naturally much stronger than other teleportation arrays. Elder Lin and Mo hurriedly walked over and helped the woman up. Even people like us who have already stepped into the God realm find it difficult to deal with, let alone you. With Elder Lin Mo's help, the woman stood up with difficulty. As for the other two women, it seemed that they also managed to stabilize themselves with the help of the other two elders. It was just that from their expressions, it was clear that they were not very used to it. On the way later, remember to keep an eye on each other. The patriarch and the elders will also help you. Elder Lin Mo said comfortingly. Only then did the women feel more at ease. However, there was still some apprehension between their brows. Lin Shifei looked at Chu Luiwei and frowned slightly. Chu Luiwei did not notice this and pulled Duga Mabao up. However, just as she stood up, she felt a heavy pressure coming from all directions. Danger! Alarm bells rang in Chu Luiwei's heart. Her true strength was only at the early stage of the 7th stage. How could she deal with this? However, at this time, she could not openly ask for Taizu's help. As for Duga Mabao, this was even more so. Just as she was filled with anxiety, suddenly, the universe ring on her hand trembled slightly, and an extremely subtle fluctuation was emitted. Whoosh! That inexplicable pressure suddenly dissipated. All the burdens around Chu Luiwei seemed to have disappeared at this moment. Chu Luiwei looked down at the universe ring on her hand with some surprise. There was nothing unusual. Apart from her, no one else seemed to have noticed this slight change. She pursed her lips. This universe ring belonged to Rong Xiao, but it did not seem to be an ordinary universe ring. The reaction of this teleportation array. Miss Dugu, are you all right? Lin Shifei suddenly asked. Chu Luiwei looked up and laughed. I'm fine. Fourth young master, you don't have to worry. As she spoke, she looked at Duga Mabao beside her. Dabeo, how are you? Duga Mabao did not want to speak, but seeing her concerned expression, he finally said 2 words. I'm fine. What is this girl thinking? He had already recondensed his divine body. Of course, this teleportation array would not be a threat to him. She still asked that. Duga Mabao shook his head helplessly. She really was a worrisome person. As they spoke, the two of them had already walked to the side of those people. At this moment, Chu Luiwei realized that they were looking at her and Duga Mabao strangely. What's wrong? Chu Luiwei asked, puzzled. Lin Tianfeng's eyes flashed with a hint of surprise. Are you guys really okay? It was fine if it was Dugu Yu. After all, she was able to break in from the outside and had extraordinary strength. But this child, why did it seem like he was not affected at all? Chu Luiwei roughly guessed what they were thinking, but did not say much. Lin Shifei curled his palm and smiled. It's good that you're fine. Father, let's go. Lin Tianfeng nodded and suppressed the doubts in his heart. The force around him gathered. Soon, a bright and resplendent pattern appeared above his head. It was also the Lin family's totem. Buzz, the teleportation array, seemed to be urged by some kind of force and slowly started to turn. At the same time, thousands of miles away, several islands floated quietly. The rich force of heaven and earth condensed into white mist and floated lightly. Below them was the deep blue sea. Under the sunlight, it was sparkling and sparkling. At a glance, it was like a fairyland. On one of the islands, a few guards were guarding a teleportation array. Suddenly, a strange fluctuation came from the teleportation array. One of the guards widened his eyes slightly. Why does this seem like the aura of His Highness the Son of God? What nonsense are you talking about? His Highness's birthday banquet is about to begin. People from various tribes have already arrived. The main island is very lively. Why would His Highness appear here? A guard beside him immediately retorted. But no buts. I heard that the one from the tomb of immortal water is also here. The position of princess consort should be hers. Digression. Finally, she waved her weak little hand. Those who have tickets must cast them out before 12 o'clock. So big. Chapter 1053. Wait, just as Lin Tianfeng's group was about to set off, an anxious shout came from a distance. Dougie, you can't go. Hearing this voice, Chu Liyue's heart skipped a beat, and he looked up. It was Lu Yue. She was in a hurry, and her eyes were filled with anger. She rushed up to Chu Liyue and was about to step onto the teleportation formation when she was stopped by a guard. Mistress, you can't go to the teleportation formation now. Lu Yue was furious and could only stand there, looking at Lin Tianfeng with grievance. Master, you can't take her. Lin Tianfeng frowned. What are you doing? Master, she injured Lu Yi and even poisoned him. You can't let such a vicious person stay by your side. What nonsense are you talking about? Lin Tianfeng was already dissatisfied with her, and hearing her lose her composure for Lu Yi, he couldn't help but feel even more annoyed. Lu Yue saw that the teleportation formation was about to start, and her heart was filled with anger and anxiety. She pointed at Chu Liyue, her eyes full of resentment. Dougie, you know best what you've done. Chu Liyue smiled. Madam Lin, what are you talking about? Why don't I understand? You said that I injured young Master Lu and poisoned him, but Debeo and I were resting at the inn last night and didn't go out. Do you have any evidence? Lu Yue was furious. She heard the news this morning that something had happened to Lu Yi. She didn't want to go at first. After all, she still had to send off Lin Tianfeng and the others. But it seemed that the manservant who delivered the news was extremely flustered. She was worried, so she still went. It didn't matter if she didn't go. When she went, she found that Lu Yi's condition was indeed very bad. Not only was there a bloody hole in his head, but he was also running a high fever. He had been in a coma and was constantly muttering nonsense. Seeing him like this, she immediately guessed that he must have gone to find trouble with Dougie and ended up like this. That was why she came to find trouble with Dougie, wanting her to give her an explanation. But the evidence, was she going to tell him everything? They were in the wrong. Currently, the only person who could testify against Dougie was Lu Yi, but his mind was muddled, and he couldn't say anything. Seeing that Lu Yue was speechless, Lin Tianfeng's tone became much harsher. Miss Dougie is an honored guest of my Lin family. How can you slander her like this? Don't let me hear such words again. Otherwise, Lu Yue bit her lips, the thick smell of blood permeating between her lips and teeth. This Dougie is really good. By curing Lin Qifei, he easily gained Lin Tianfeng's trust and protection. If he let her go now, it would be difficult to deal with her in the future, but she was not qualified to go with him. Dougie, I won't let this matter rest. The truth will be revealed one day. When that time comes, we'll see. Chu Liyue shrugged and chuckled. You're welcome. Looking at her relaxed expression, as if she didn't care about this matter at all, Lu Yue was fuming. But at this moment, the teleportation circle was fully activated. The teleportation circle shone brightly, and a few of them were instantly enveloped. Farewell, Master. As everyone respectfully sent them off, their figures disappeared. Looking at the empty teleportation circle in front of her, Lu Yue gritted her teeth. Dougie, don't think that you can just leave like this. Lin Tianfeng and the rest entered the space tunnel. probably because the teleportation circle was of a very high level, and it was jointly built by the top experts. It was very stable. After entering, Elder Lin Mo took out a lantern. The bright light instantly illuminated the space where everyone was. Miss Dugu, just now what happened? After a short period of silence, a woman finally couldn't help but break the silence. Hearing this, the others also looked over. Chu Yue's expression was normal, and she smiled helplessly. I don't know either. When I first came to Heavenly Cave Cliff a few days ago, I met that young Master Lu. At that time, there was a small argument, and it wasn't very pleasant. Today, Madame Lin suddenly acted like this, and I don't know why. The women looked at each other and nodded thoughtfully. Who in Heavenly Cave Cliff didn't know what kind of person Louis was? Dugu came from the outside world with a child, and she was considered to have no one to rely on. Why would such a person take the initiative to cause trouble? It must be Lu Yi who started it first, and now he's making the accusation. Miss Dugu, don't worry. Now that you've cured fourth young master, everyone in the Lin family has to be polite to you. There's nothing to be afraid of. That's right. With Miss Dugu's ability, why bother with such a person? That Lu Yi is used to bullying people. Someone will teach him a lesson sooner or later. The women comforted her. Looking at Chu Luiwe, and then looking at Dugu Ma Bao, they all showed sympathy. Was it easy for a widow and an orphan? Thank you. I don't care about these things. Chu Yue's lips curved slightly. This trip is the most important thing to me. The women's eyes were complicated, and they all nodded. In fact, they had all heard that Dugu came from the outside world to find her husband with her child. It was rumored that her husband was from the outside world, and by chance, he met and fell in love with Dugu in the outside world, and they had a child together. Unfortunately, he never returned, and he actually abandoned the mother and son pair. All men in the world are the same. After eating and playing enough, they're bored. Miss Dugu, if you find that man this time, you must not be afraid. You must teach him a good lesson and let him know how powerful you are. That's right. Don't worry, we'll all be on your side. Although Miss Dugu is an outsider, her talent is outstanding and her strength is strong. That man is obviously blind to treat you like this. It's not easy to find a three-legged toad, but a two-legged man is everywhere. According to Miss Dugu's conditions, why would she worry about marriage? The women said angrily. Chu Luiwe clenched her fist to her lips and coughed. Well, actually, he's not that bad. Before Chu Luiwe could finish her sentence, the few women exclaimed in shock. Miss Dugu, don't tell me you still can't forget that scumbag. That can't be. That's right. This kind of man can't be. Chu Luiwe, if they knew that the person they were scolding now was the holy son that they longed to see, what would their expressions be like? And if that honorable His Highness, the Holy Son, heard these words, what kind of expression would he have? We're almost there. Lin Tianfeng suddenly said. Chu Luiwe looked forward. A bright spot of light appeared at the end of the tunnel. The Yuntian Tower is in front. Chapter 1054. Yuntian Tower. Chu Luiwe repeated the name in her mind. So, that's the name of Rongxiu's family? When a few people beside him heard this, they all quieted down. Even in the dark tunnel, it wasn't hard for Chu Luiwe to sense the slightly tense atmosphere. Even Lin Tianfeng's expression was unprecedentedly solemn and serious. It was obvious that everyone was more or less nervous. Soon, a strange fluctuation came from the front. Chu Luiwe subconsciously held her breath. With a burst of pressure, the sky lit up. Stepping on the thick ground, Chu Yue's heart calmed down a little. She was not used to the glaring sunlight and squinted her eyes slightly. After a while, she looked around. In front of her was an azure sea. The waves sparkled, pure and vast. In the distance, islands of different sizes floated quietly in the air, surrounded by smoke. It was like a fairyland. The sky was a clear, light blue. Where the water met the sky, it was almost impossible to tell whether the blue was the sky or the sea. There was a faint sweet smell in the air that refreshed the heart and refreshed the mind, making the entire body feel comfortable. Chu Luiwe was secretly shocked. The density and purity of the heaven and earth origin force here was something she had never seen before. At this moment, she heard a dignified voice. Heavenly Cave Cliff. Chu Luiwe paused and turned to look in the direction of the voice. Beside the teleportation formation, there were a few guards in black armor. The one who spoke seemed to be of a higher rank, and his aura was stronger than the others. On the left chest of their armor, there was a strange pattern engraved. This should be the totem of the Yuntian Tower. Chu Luiwe looked at it and felt that it was somewhat familiar. Lin Tianfeng cupped his hands and smiled. Lin Tianfeng of Heavenly Cave Cliff has led the clan to congratulate His Highness, the Holy Sun, on his birthday. The leader cupped his fists and said politely, "Greetings, Patriarch Lin." The people behind him also bowed in unison. Chu Luiwe looked on from behind with some amusement. Although these people were very polite to Lin Tianfeng, they did not seem to put themselves down. Lin Tianfeng also treated them with great respect, and his attitude was clearly different from that of ordinary guards. The Yuntian Tower was indeed extraordinary. These soldiers were obviously treating him like this because he was a member of the Yuntian Tower. When a clan was strong to a certain extent, everyone would be respected. This was the right to speak that came with strength. "Patriarch Lin, why are you so late? His Highness's birthday banquet is in a few hours. If you were any later, you wouldn't even be able to go to the main island." Lin hurriedly, "I'm sorry, we did not meet. There was a problem with the teleportation formation earlier, so it was delayed." The soldier shook his head. "Forget it. Since there's still some time left, all of you, why is there as a child?" He looked at Lin Tianfeng and frowned slightly. "Patriarch Lin, I don't remember you having such a young child." Lin Tianfeng hurriedly waved his hand in denial. "It's a misunderstanding. This child is not my Lin family's, but Miss Dugu's. She is my son Ji Fei's personal celestial physician, so she came with us." Many people knew that Lin Tianfeng favored his youngest son, Lin Qifei. It was rumored that he had always wanted to pass the position of patriarch to Lin Qifei. Unfortunately, Lin Qifei was born with a weak body and was a medicine jar. Many people were not very optimistic about this matter. However, Lin Tianfeng's attitude had not changed. It was expected that he would bring Lin Qifei and his personal celestial physician. But the personal celestial physician was one thing, but why did he bring a child? "Patriarch Lin, although this child doesn't take up a slot, it seems inappropriate for you to do this. This is the birthday banquet of His Highness the Holy Sun, and it's also a concubine selection ceremony. You." Lin Tianfeng coughed and lowered his voice. "This, you don't know, but Miss Dugu has no relatives or friends, and it's really hard for her to take care of a child. I can't let her leave the child behind. I promise I won't let the child run around and cause any trouble. How about you make an exception?" Seeing that Lin Tianfeng was pleading for leniency, the soldier could not say anything more. "If that's the case, then please be careful, Patriarch Lin. You also know that this is Yuntian Tower." When he said the last sentence, the soldier's voice became more serious, with a hint of authority. Lin Tianfeng hurriedly thanked him. The soldier waved his hand. "The people of the other tribes have already arrived. You should go as well." Although Heavenly Cave Cliff was considered to be at the bottom of these tribes, they still had to do what they were supposed to do. After that, he waved his sleeve slightly, and a palm-sized white jade token appeared in the air. The token was engraved with the totem of the Yuntian Tower, and the edges were decorated with auspicious clouds. It shone brightly. The soldier said in a deep voice, "The Lin clan of Heavenly Cave Cliff has arrived. Leader, please send someone to receive us." As soon as he finished speaking, a faint buzzing sound came from the token. Soon after, a silver ray of light flew out and extended in another direction. Chu Luiwe and the others looked in the direction of the stream of light. They saw a huge island floating quietly in the distance. It seemed to be at the center of this place, and it was also the largest island here. Whether it was in terms of scale or aura, it was indisputably a top existence. That should be the main island they were talking about, right? Just as this thought flashed through Chu Yue's mind, a stream of light suddenly flew out of the main island. Compared to the stream of light on the token, that stream of light was obviously much more majestic. Not long after, the two streams of light connected in midair, forming a bridge. "Everyone, please." Lin Tianfeng was the first to leap up and land on the bridge. The rest of the people followed closely behind. The elders were still fine. After all, they had seen a lot of the world, so they were still calm at this time. However, even though the women tried their best to appear calm, the corners of their eyes and brows could not hide the excitement and curiosity. It was their first time here. The Yuntian Tower was a place that was unreachable for them. Now, using this opportunity, they could actually come here. It was like a dream. Chu Liwa led Dugama Bao and was the last to go up. "Let's go." Lin Tianfeng took the lead and walked forward. At the same time, Rong Xiu was reading in the study. Suddenly, he paused, and his thin lips curled into a faint smile. "You're finally here." With that, he stood up and walked outside. Yanqing saw this and quickly followed. "Your Highness, do you really want to go personally now? How about this subordinate go first? Now that there are people outside, it is inevitable that His Highness will be seen." Rong Xiu raised his eyebrows slightly. "I naturally have to go personally to welcome my own princess." Chapter 1055. Yanqing cursed in her heart. His words were like gold and jade. He had already said that she was the princess, but he still wanted to hold a consort selection hall with great fanfare, as if it was real. When that person came and saw this scene, who knew what kind of reaction she would have? But since His Highness had decided to do this, as subordinates, they could only follow his orders. In a short time, countless possible scenes flashed through Yanqing's mind. Perhaps he should also think about how he would not be implicated by His Highness when the time came. However, just as the master and servant walked out, before they could move, Yu Mo hurried back from outside. "Your Highness." Seeing Rong Xiu, Yu Mo hurriedly bowed. "Your Highness, Miss Jiang is here. She is waiting outside the hall at this moment, saying that she has something important to discuss with you personally." He did not mention her background or name. Just Miss Jiang was enough to explain who she was. This could only prove that this person's status was extremely high, and it was obvious who she was referring to. Rong Xiu did not stop walking, and his expression was indifferent. "Let her wait." Yu Mo was stunned for a moment. He looked up in surprise and glanced at Rong Xiu. It would be fine if His Highness did not want to see anyone else, but this person. Then Yu Mo had a flash of inspiration as he suddenly thought of something. Could it be? He quickly looked at Yanqing. Yanqing nodded calmly. Yu Mo understood. No wonder. It was really that person who came. Yu Mo immediately swallowed the words in his throat. Since that person was here, everyone else had to step back. However, not long after Rong Xiu walked out, a sweet and gentle woman's voice was heard. "Your Highness, where are you going? You are in such a hurry that you don't even want to see me?" Rong Xiu stopped and looked sideways. A woman dressed in a long white dress was standing there charmingly. She was slender, and there were no extra accessories on her body. Only a thin blue jade belt around her waist outlined the curves of a young girl. Her face was like a peach, and her facial features were perfect. The most moving thing was the gentleness in her watery eyes. Her fine black hair was tied up in an exquisite bun with a sapphire dangling from it. She tilted her head slightly and shook it gently, as if she could stir people's hearts. Rong Xiu narrowed his eyes and said calmly, "Jiang Zhuan, why are you here?" As he spoke, his gaze fell on Yu Mo. Yu Mo was shocked and hurriedly said, "Your Highness, this subordinate asked eldest young Miss Jiang to wait outside and did not invite her in. This subordinate also does not know why she is here." The soldiers who were standing guard at the side were stunned. Only then did they realize that they seemed to have done something wrong. They hurriedly knelt down. "Your Highness, I have already set the rules." Without Ai's permission, no one is allowed to enter or leave this place. It seems like you guys don't have a good memory. Your Highness, please spare my life, Your Highness. Strip him of his position and flog him 100 times. Rongshio's voice was cold. It's in front of the main hall. Carry out immediately. Hearing his words, the soldiers' faces turned pale and they fell to the ground. It's over. The smile on Jiang Zhuan's face froze. Your Highness, what are you doing? They only let me in because they saw that it was me. In the past, I could come and go freely when I came here. I have never. That was in the past. Rongshio looked at her deeply. When the clan leader lived here, you could do whatever you wanted. But now this is Ai's palace. Naturally, I have the final say. I believe that this time, eldest young Miss Jiang should also remember this rule, right? Digression. Continue at 6 p.m. The list of names for August Periphery will be announced tomorrow. Chapter 1056. Jiang Jiwan's face slowly turned red. Tears welled up in her eyes, and the tip of her nose stung. She bit her lip and tried to calm herself down, but her voice still sounded like she was about to cry. I didn't know Your Highness hated me so much. Originally, she was overjoyed when she came here. Her mind was filled with thoughts of what would happen after their meeting. She rarely came here in the past few years. She hadn't seen Rongshio for 2 years. She had imagined countless scenarios, but none of them were as embarrassing as the one before her. Her face felt like it was on fire. It was burning with pain. The gazes of the people around her were like steel needles piercing her body. She wished she could disappear from this place immediately. She didn't expect that he would embarrass her like this. Compared to Jiang Zhuan's shock and heartache, Rongshio didn't take this matter to heart. In the past, when the clan leader was in power, he indulged her in every possible way. But now it was different. Jiang Zhuan's status wasn't low, but this was the Yuntian Tower. She couldn't do as she pleased. UMO, stay here and watch them finish their punishment. Yes. UMO wiped the sweat off his forehead. He couldn't help but look at Jiang Zhuan with a trace of dissatisfaction in his heart. Does this young miss still think that the Yuntian Tower today is the same as the Yuntian Tower a few years ago? Wasn't she a little too bold? She actually dared to barge in like this. She really doesn't treat me as an outsider. Rongshio finished speaking and was about to leave. Seeing that he was about to leave, Jiang Zhuan couldn't help but shout again. Wait, Your Highness, do you really not want to see me that much? We haven't seen each other for years. Rongshio wanted to nod directly, but he chose to be merciful for the sake of the Jiang clan. I have something important to do. Jiang Zhuan was slightly stunned. What is so important that Your Highness needs to do personally at this time? In a while, the banquet would begin. What was he planning to do? Rongshio's eyes seemed to be covered with a thin layer of frost. Miss Jiang, are you questioning I? Jiang Zhuan's heart tightened. No, I'm not. I'm just asking casually. It's fine if Your Highness doesn't want to tell me. Seeing that Rongshio really had no reluctance and was about to leave, she gritted her teeth and took a step forward. Your Highness, I'm here because I have something important to discuss with you. Rongshio seemed to have no intention of paying attention to him. He turned around with an indifferent expression. It's related to the academy. Jiang Jiwan shouted. Rongshio paused and looked back at her. His deep eyes seemed to be able to see through everything. Speak. Chu Luiwei and the others walked along the silver bridge. After about 15 minutes, they arrived at the main island. When they got closer, they could see everything on the main island more clearly. This island was huge. There were mountains and forests, rising and falling continuously. On these mountains, there were several palaces scattered like stars in the sky. On the highest peak in the middle, there was a magnificent palace towering majestically. Chu Luiwei and the others arrived at the bottom and edge of the main island. Therefore, if they wanted to see the palaces, they would have to look up, because they couldn't see very clearly. Coupled with the white fog, they could only see a corner of the palace. However, even at such a distance, they could still clearly feel the ancient and vast pressure. It was a power and aura that almost made people submit to it from the depths of their souls. Master Lin, a soldier in charge of receiving them, stepped forward. Judging from his clothes and aura, he seemed to be a level higher than the leader who sent them here. I'm Hu Yang. In the following period of time, it will be up to me to explain everything that has happened here. Thank you in advance, Master Hu. Lin Tianfeng smiled. Master Lin is too polite. As Hu Yang spoke, he put away the white jade token. Everyone, please follow me. Master Lin, you are the last to arrive. The other tribes had already rested in their respective palaces, waiting for the saint's birthday banquet to begin. Hu Yang said as he led the group forward. If we were any later, you ladies would not have made it. Lin Tianfeng smiled apologetically. We were delayed because of some matters. Please don't blame us. Master Lin, you don't have to worry about this. His Highness won't care about such trivial matters. Hu Yang shook his head. Then, Lin Tianfeng and Hu Yang chatted for a while and soon arrived at their destination. This was a relatively short mountain peak, and a palace was located on top of it. Although it was called a palace, it was far inferior to the ones above. This is the Wind Lotus Palace. It will also be the place where you will rest for a period of time. Hu Yang led them over. Suddenly, a burst of bell-like laughter came from the side. It seemed that a few women were excitedly discussing something at the corner of the palace. The Yuntian Tower is indeed extraordinary. Everywhere is extremely expensive. I heard that the cup of tea we just drank cost 100,000 white crystal coins per tael. Really? That's really. If only we could live here for the rest of our lives. What's the point of living here? The ones above are the real good places. Do you see the one at the top? Rumor has it that that's the saint's palace. That's not a place where just anyone can go. Isn't that simple? Now that the saint is choosing a concubine, as long as you are chosen, shoo. Lower your voice. You really aren't afraid of being overheard. Although there are many outstanding women from the various tribes, who doesn't know that the position of concubine has already been decided? Hearing this, Chu Luwei raised his eyebrows slightly. You mean, the one from the Immortal Water Mausoleum? Other than her, who else could it be? Rumor has it that she is a stunning beauty, and she was born with a rare Tianjing Yuan Meridian, just like the saint. That's not all. You must know that the Jiang clan in the Immortal Water Mausoleum is the most powerful existence among all the tribes. Moreover, the old clan leader of the Yuntian Tower has a close relationship with the Jiang clan, and he has always doted on Miss Jiang. When she was young, she spent most of her time at the Yuntian Tower. It's probably because the old clan leader is in seclusion and she is diligent in her cultivation that she has less contact with the Yuntian Tower. With these conditions, do you think that the position of concubine will fall into her family's hands? If that's the case, then why does the saint still choose a concubine with such great fanfare? Can't he just get engaged to Miss Jiang directly? Who knows? Anyway, we're just here to serve as a foil. Besides, even if the concubine can't be chosen, there are still concubines, right? At the very least, there are concubines. As long as she is chosen, she won't have to worry for the rest of her life. I've heard that the saint is unparalleled in his handsomeness, like an immortal. I wonder what he looks like. Chu Luiwei stroked his chin. Oh, concubine, concubine, concubine. So the Holy Son's life was actually so good. Chapter 1057. Thinking of this, she couldn't help but laugh. The people around them were originally quietly listening to the women in the corner, but Chu Yueyue's laughter immediately broke the silence. Lin Tianfeng and the others looked over strangely. The commotion here also attracted the attention of the women who were chatting happily not far away. They quickly stopped and looked over nervously. It was fine for them to talk like this in private, but if someone with ulterior motives overheard, when they saw Hu Yang standing at the front, the women's faces turned slightly pale, but they secretly heaved a sigh of relief in their hearts. This was because Hu Yang wasn't directly responsible for looking after them. They quickly calmed down, looked at each other, and walked over. Greetings, Lord Hu. The three women bowed in unison. They were all beautiful, slender, and dainty. Their movements were very graceful and dignified. It was obvious that they had learned the relevant etiquette before, and it was impossible to find fault with them. Hu Yang nodded and pointed to Lin Tianfeng. This is clan leader Lin of Heavenly Cave Cliff. Heavenly Cave Cliff? The women showed a look of understanding, then smiled and bowed. Greetings, clan leader Lin. I've heard of your name for a long time, and seeing you today, I can see that you live up to your reputation. These words were said very politely, and also very flattering. It would be better if they could cover up the contempt and disdain in their eyes. Lin Tianfeng was able to keep his composure and didn't argue with them. His expression was calm, and he didn't reveal anything. Ladies, you're too polite. If I'm selected this time, I'll be the one to bow to you in the future. The expressions of the women on the other side changed instantly. Wasn't he clearly mocking them? But considering the other party's identity and the fact that Hu Yang and the others were standing around, they didn't want to make things too ugly, so they swallowed their anger and forced a smile. Not at all. I'm just a lowly person. How could I dare to have such extravagant hopes? Lin Qifei suddenly coughed. Hearing this, Lin Tianfeng immediately turned around and asked worriedly, Qifei, are you feeling unwell? Hu Yang said, Fourth young master Lin, this way please. As he spoke, he led his men all the way to the side hall. Chu Luiwei was about to follow, but was suddenly stopped by those women. Miss, please wait. Chu Luiwei stopped in her tracks and looked back. Is something the matter? A beautiful woman in a lotus-colored dress smiled slightly, but there was no smile in her eyes. May I ask, what were you laughing at just now? Chu Luiwei also laughed. It's nothing. I just thought of something and chuckled. What's wrong? Could it be that the few of you have something against this? The woman sneered and took a few steps forward, approaching Chu Luiwei. The three women who had originally planned to follow Lin Tianfeng and the others hurriedly stepped forward and stood beside Chu Luiwei. What are you trying to do? We don't want to do anything. It's just that this lady seemed to be mocking us just now. We just want to clarify things. The woman in the lotus-colored dress stared at Chu Luiwei with a mocking gaze. Chu Luiwei gave the others a reassuring look and smiled faintly. I'm not mocking you, but I think what you said makes a lot of sense. No matter who you are, as long as you're chosen, you'll have a meteoric rise. Besides Rome, His Highness the Son of Saint is indeed enchanting, noble, and graceful. She suddenly paused. His Highness the Son of Saint is indeed what? The women opposite her asked anxiously. His Highness the Son of Saint is indeed the dream man of many women. Chu Luiwei smiled and said word by word, Do I need you to tell me that? But someone like you won't have a chance. The woman in the lotus-colored dress impudently sized up Chu Luiwei. The mocking expression on her face was enough to explain everything. Hey, show some respect. Miss Dugu is an 8th grade celestial physician. She's also an honored guest of Heavenly Cave Cliff. The women beside Chu Luiwei couldn't help but retort. Only then did the women opposite her realize that this ordinary-looking woman in front of them didn't seem to be participating in the consort selection hall this time. There was a little boy standing next to her. Just as the two sides were about to continue arguing, Chu Luiwei said, Forget it. Let's go back first. She wasn't interested in wasting time here with these people. However, her words were a sign of weakness in the eyes of the other party. After they turned and left, the women didn't lower their voices and were still full of mockery. At least she knows her place. I'm afraid no man will take a second look at her if she goes out like this. It's useless even if she's beautiful. Heavenly Cave Cliff. I thought they'd tactfully give up. Who knew that they'd be so thick-skinned and come? What a pity. If we came a little earlier and changed our residence, we wouldn't have to squeeze in with them. Forget it. There's nothing to say to these people. Let's go back and prepare first. The birthday banquet is about to begin. Those people from Coal Mountain Valley are too much. A woman finally couldn't help but whisper. They're clearly not much stronger than us. Why do they have to be so arrogant? Chu Luiwei smiled indifferently. If they want to make a scene, let them. We just have to do our own thing. Miss Dugu, aren't you angry? Another woman asked curiously. They said that about you. Chu Liwe touched her face and nodded thoughtfully. Actually, what they said isn't without reason. This face is indeed not qualified to participate in the consort selection hall. The women looked at each other speechlessly. Dugu really didn't seem to care about this at all. Chu Liwe walked into the room, took Lin Qifei's pulse, and handed over a pill. This is the last one. I'll continue to refine it when I have time. You should be able to recover more than half in a month or so. It's just that fourth young master's body has been burdened by illness for many years. He needs to rest well for about a year or so before he can fully recover. Lin Qifei nodded lightly. Thank you, Master Lin. The people from Coal Mountain Valley have already taken the main hall. I'll have to trouble you to stay in this side hall for the time being. Hu Yang sighed and said. Lin Tianfeng wanted to say something, but stopped. In the end, he didn't flare up and only nodded. At this moment, a series of familiar footsteps suddenly came from outside. Chu Liwe seemed to sense something and looked back. A figure appeared at the door. It was Yanqing. Hu Yang was shocked. He hurried forward and asked respectfully, Lord Yanqing, why are you here? Yanqing was in a hurry. Her eyes quickly searched the room. When she saw Chu Liwe, her heart skipped a beat. Chu Liwe smiled, her red lips slightly opened. Lord Yanqing. Chapter 1058. Yanqing hurriedly walked to Chu Liwe and was about to speak when the girl suddenly stepped forward. Greetings, Lord Yanqing. I am Dugu, said Chu Liwe with a smile and bowed at the same time. Yanqing's legs turned to jelly, and he almost knelt on the ground. He spoke in a trembling voice, but before he could say anything, he saw Chu Liwe's bright black eyes. That pair of star-like eyes were glowing with a clear and bright light. Yanqing choked, and the rest of his words were stuck in his throat. He complained incessantly in his heart. His Highness was supposed to come, but he was stopped by Jiang Jiwan. Hearing that it had something to do with the academy, His Highness temporarily stayed behind and let him come first. Yanqing had already expected that Chu Liwe would not be in a good mood after knowing these things. She might be angry, or reprimanded, but he did not expect that she would not even want to admit her identity. But this was even scarier than those reactions. Yanqing regretted it for a moment. He should have waited to come with His Highness. Why'd he have to become cannon fodder now? Only then did the surrounding people realize that the atmosphere between the two was very unusual. Hu Yang's eyes darted back and forth between the two of them, and he asked tentatively, Lord Yanqing, are you acquainted with Miss Dugu? Yanqing swallowed his saliva with difficulty. His throat was tight. Yes. I have met Lord Yanqing a few times before, but at that time, I did not know Lord Yanqing's identity. Only today did I know that Lord Yanqing's identity is so impressive. Chu Liwe responded smoothly, and the smile on her face did not diminish at all. She looked very relaxed. However, in the ears of the people around them, these words were no different from a clap of thunder. Dugu actually knows Yanqing. He was the closest confidant of His Highness the Saint. Such a status was enough to kill 90% of the people in Yuntian Tower. Yanqing's eyes twitched. Every word that came out of Chu Liwe's mouth was like roasting him on a rack. Lin Tianfeng looked on in amazement from the side. Suddenly, a white light flashed in his mind. Wait a minute. Dugu was an outsider, so she shouldn't have been to the Divine Ruins world before. In that case, did the two of them know each other outside the Divine Ruins realm? Looking at the reactions of the two people, especially the expression of this Yanqing, how could it be that they had only met a few times? Could it be Lin Tianfeng had a bold and absurd conjecture? This idea was so absurd that just thinking about it made his heart beat uncontrollably. He almost subconsciously looked at Lin Qifei, only to see that Lin Qifei was also observing the two people thoughtfully. The surrounding people made Yanqing feel uneasy. He swallowed hard. Miss Dugu, may I have a word with you? The already quiet room became even more silent. Who was Yanqing? with his status. How could he speak so politely to a woman? In fact, this was no longer just politeness. It was almost like he was begging. Everyone present was shocked. Only the person in question, Chu Luiwei, didn't look surprised at all. In fact, the smile on his face deepened. Sure. Yanqing took a deep breath and stretched out his hand. This way, please. After Yanqing and Chu Luiwei left, the remaining people fell into a long silence. After an unknown period of time, Hu Yang sucked in a breath of cold air. He looked at Lin Tianfeng in disbelief and said anxiously, Patriarch Lin, Miss Dugu knows Lord Yanqing. Why didn't you say so earlier? Lin Tianfeng said innocently, I didn't know. How long had they known Dugu Yu? How could they know everything? Right now, he was also filled with shock, all right? Oh my God, Lord Yanqing. Is he the Yanqing by His Highness the Holy Sun's side? A woman beside him widened her eyes and asked cautiously. Hu Yang sighed. Other than him, who else could it be? The young ladies looked at each other in dismay, their faces filled with shock. I heard that Lord Yanqing is one of His Highness the Holy Sun's most trusted confidants. He also has a high status in the Yuntian Tower. I didn't expect Miss Dugu to know him. From what they said, it seems like they met outside the world of God. I didn't expect Miss Dugu to have such a relationship. They seem to be very close. Anyone with eyes could see that Yanqing's attitude in front of Dugu Yu was very different. Hu Yang came back to his senses. He couldn't hide the excitement on his face. This Miss Dugu is too much. She should have said so earlier. With this relationship, their situation in the Yuntian Tower would be much better than before. Another woman said weakly. Didn't she say that she didn't know Lord Yanqing's identity and only found out after coming here? She probably didn't expect this to happen, right? However, Hu Yang laughed out loud. Actually, that's not important. Miss Dugu knows Lord Yanqing. Who knows how much more convenient it will be for all of you in the future. Lord Yanqing has always been a cold-hearted person. He is only loyal to His Highness, the Holy Sun. He doesn't care about most of the others. To be able to establish a relationship with him, TSK. He smiled at Lin Tianfeng and said, Lin Tianfeng. Master Lin, many of the clans have tried to establish a good relationship with Lord Yanqing, but to no avail. You guys are much better than them. The Lin family of Cave Heaven Cliff had always been the weakest among the clans. Who would have thought that they would be so lucky? Lin Tianfeng laughed and then looked at Lin Qifei. Could it be that guess was true? Yanqing is guilty. Please punish me, Miss Lu Liyue. As soon as Yanqing entered the room, he knelt down on one knee and admitted his mistake. Chu Luiwei widened her eyes slightly, as if she were shocked. Lord Yanqing, what are you doing? Please get up. I can't accept this bow. If outsiders know about this, it will be inappropriate. Yanqing smiled bitterly and begged, Don't worry. Please don't make fun of me. I had no choice but to hide it from you. Oh? No choice. So, your master was also forced to do it? Chu Luiwei raised her eyebrows slightly. Yanqing choked. If I didn't come this time, I'm afraid that His Highness would have chosen a harem and lived a carefree life here. Right? This. You really misunderstood. There are all kinds of beauties here. If I were a man, I would be tempted to see them. Yanqing felt suffocated. For the first time, he blamed his master. Why should his subordinate bear the responsibility for the trouble he caused? Yanqing felt a headache coming on. Miss Lu Yu, His Highness wanted to pick you up personally, but Miss Jiang came to him at the last minute, so His Highness asked me to come first. It's not good to live in Wind Lotus Garden. Why don't you come with me first? Chu Luiwei crossed her arms and smiled faintly. Miss Jiang? That you're tuning in to the Romance Rendezvous YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.